Hello, my name is Abdulrashid Bello, otherwise known as JJC Skills. And this documentary is for my brother, my good friend, and my manager, Steve Spotlight Osagie. I can't believe I'm making this documentary because I've always told him I wanted to make documentaries, and he's been telling me, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Even though he's a motivator, he hasn't been able to actually convince me to make it. Unfortunately, this is my first documentary, and it's about his life because last year he passed away, and I'm forced to actually make this documentary about his life as my first documentary. I feel like it's my duty to document his life and his story, especially for his young children, so that they can have something they can remember their father by. Steve, you made me do a documentary. Unfortunately, it's your documentary that I'm starting with. Although Steve is my brother from another mother, it was quite shocking for me at the memorial to hear everyone talking exactly how I feel. It seems that he was exactly the same person to every single person he met, which kind of in a way didn't make me feel so special. But at the same time kind of testified that Steve was a very special person. If anything, he was more like an angel because he dedicated his life to help people. So I wanted to find out more. So I started asking everyone that knew him. His mother, his father, his brothers, his wife. I wanted to find out everything about him from the beginning all the way to his last minutes. So this is the story of Steve Spotlight.
My name is Mrs. Grace Osagie. I'm Steve's mother, is the third born.
Mr. Godwin Osagie. By the grace of God, really, and the favor of God, the father of Steve.
My name is Anthony Osagie. I'm Steve's oldest brother.
Courage Osagie, Steve's immediate older brother.
I've known Steve all his life, obviously. My first memory in my life was when Steve was born. Maybe because at that time that was the biggest event, in my life. I'm only 3 years older than him, but at that time that was the biggest thing I knew. So for some reason, it stuck in my mind, and for as long as I can remember, I've always known us to be three boys. The three boys, me, Courage, and Steve.
Steve came in something of a miracle, 11th of May, 1977. And I had gone to work, and the mother fell into labor. Early in the day after I had gone, we were living in Sulere.
When I had him, his labor was very short. Came out quick.
To God's glory. And I said it took about 5 minutes after I was admitted and rushed into the labor room. In 5 minutes, Steve was out. And that early in the morning, about 8, just after 8.
And I still remember we had some celebration, when we were going to do the naming ceremony to give him Osagie.
Everything was okay. Went to primary school, in Command Primary School. By this time we were at Yaba, Joseph Harrison. Right from that early stage in the primary school, he was showing flashes of what he was going to be.
He lost friends because I can still remember anytime Steve is on holiday, you see the crowd in our street. Everybody, because we always travel on holidays, we buy them a lot of stuff for games or whatever. We bring them out. Basketball, we have to provide basketball. You see it when, in fact, he lost people. In fact, the parents in our streets, in our community, when they see the street busy, they know our son is around.
Magnetic in terms of relationship with children as well. We're bringing people home. There was nothing we could do. We accepted his attachment to friends and so on and so forth. In Yaba. From Yaba, he finished primary school, and for 1 year, we sent him to Benin at the Greater Tomorrow Primary School.
So I'm Uchi Momo. I'm Steve's very good friend, confident. Steve's my advisor, just like a brother. Steve and I met in school, in secondary school. We were in a school called Greater Tomorrow in Benin. So we were probably about 12 when I met Steve. It was odd because I used to see him during the classes, but I would never see him when we were eating in the canteen. And the canteen is where you see everybody in school, people that didn't go to class, people that went to class. And I remember one day thinking, why doesn't this guy ever come and eat? And I saw him behind the canteen in the kitchen. And I was like, this guy, what are you doing in the kitchen? He said, my auntie works in the kitchen, so I eat here. So he had the choice meat, the choice fish. Well, we used to struggle for all the fish and fish head. He had all the choice meats there. And I was like, this guy, you enjoying it? He said, man, you can come and be eating here with me. I said, are you serious? Your auntie gonna be cool? He said, meet my auntie. I greeted his auntie greeted me. She said, anytime. I was like, wow.
I was doing very well for that year. Unfortunately, we felt that we were not living up to the standard he left in Lagos. The school was crowded and the dormitory was not conducive to him. He was falling ill.
Yeah, measles. He was falling sick all the time, you know. We just felt that Benin wasn't the proper place for him. Yeah, so we have to withdraw him.
I was looking for Steve. I didn't see him. Where's this guy? Where's this guy? And I went to go and meet the woman. I said, where's my guy now? She said that I didn't hear that he has left the school. Steve just up and left. So I think his parents removed him from the school and changed his school to Lagos.
I decided that he should come to Lagos. Then he got admission into Model College, Igbokuta. He was very good there. Igbokuta is close to Ikorodu, of Ikorodu. He was there until he graduated from the school. Did extremely well. The principal called me and said, gave glowing tributes to Osagie for his brilliance and his relationship with children in the school. And after that, he came to London.
The next time I saw Steve was when I came to London and went to join this college called South Thames College. I went to the basketball court and see who I see on the basketball court. He said, Osagie, how far now? I said, man, they call me Steve here now. So, since then, we've just been very tight and we didn't allow it to break like it broke in the second. So I've known Steve since literally I was about 12, 13.
And he wasn't misbehaving. We've never had bad news that he followed gang or anything. Never. Never. But all I know, he will go to, is it a musical something he will always go to? You know, I'll say, I say, you know, you are sent here to study, not to be saying, Mommy, don't worry, Mom. I know, Uche them, you know, can still remember. Then I know there was a time I had to go to Uche mom, even though if I don't see him, Uche mom say, Mom, and the sister say, don't ever be worried. Anytime you don't see Osagie at home, just call us. It's always with us. That is a good boy. That's what the mom told me, Uche mom.
My name is Josiah, but most people call me Shadow. And Steve was more of a brother than I would say a friend. He was a brother. So met Steve 95, 96, because we went to the same college together, South Thames College.
Yeah, my name is Ayo Betsku. Steve was one of my closest friends. We met him here, a group of us. But I met him in South Thames University, South Thames College, sorry. We were about 16, 17.
My name is Razak. I met Steve back in college in 1996. And we've kind of lived close to each other ever since, you know, so I've been a friend of the family ever since.
My name is Tony Otite, and I've known Steve for over 2 decades. I was like from his Black Marble days, Thames College. I didn't go to Thames College, but I used to hang out with them and stuff. So yeah, we did more or less everything. I went to his wedding, he came to my wedding. I've known the whole circle, like Ayo, Josiah, Uchi, the whole gang basically. So I mean, he more or less pushes everyone.
I got into admission for 2 years to prepare himself for the A level, after which he entered the university. That's South Bank University.
Hi, I'm Caroline Onyama. I'm a very good friend of Steve's, and I met Steve, I would say, 1998, around 98 in uni, South Bank University. And we've been friends ever since.
My name is Jason Ademola. Steve is like one of my best friends. Yeah, one of my best friends. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding. I was one of his groomsmen at his wedding. Actually, I met Steve in South Bank, first year. I think it was 2000 or 1999, can't remember. But it was first year of uni. We were supposed to go to ACFES, as everybody's been talking about. It was a yearly university event that happens, and I was supposed to be there. I was going with my friend. My friend didn't turn up, so I was outside waiting for the coach. Steve was with Ayo, and he was walking around, and he just came up to me, like everyone has said, and just started talking to me. Say, hey, this guy, how are you? Are you going to ACFES? Blah, blah, I like your teams and that. And we just started talking. And he said, are you here by us? I explained the situation. He said, literally, come and hang with me and my boy. Called Ayo over, started talking. The whole weekend I spent with him. And since that time, it was just, that's it. We just became close friends.
My name is Ayodele Onigbogi. Steve was, should I say, brother, friend. We happened to had gone to the same university. But I was years ahead of Steve and Bimbola, and I met Steve through Bimbo, his wife, who's my wife's friend.
My name is Mrs. Bimbola Osagie, and I am Steve's wife. So this was first year of uni, and it's probably the first event in the first semester. So all of us were quite new, you know. Actually, one of Steve's friends called Mark, an American, really handsome young man, picked me up from home to this event. So maybe I'll call it a date. So yeah, he picked me up and we got to the venue. And then at the venue, he introduced me to all of his friends, Steve being one of them.
When we were teenagers growing up, when we were still at South Thames, when mobile phones came out, we used to always go out together, social events, hang around each other's houses. Steve was always on the phone, and he'll be talking to guys and girls, spending hours on the phone. And we'll be there, we'll be chilling, we'll be hanging out, having a good time, but he'll be on the phone, and he'll come off the call, somebody else will call, or he'll call somebody else. I'm like, Steve, what are you talking to all these girls about? Why are you chasing all these girls? What's going on? He said, man, Daddy just called me for advice. We were teenagers. It's like, man, they just call me for advice. I'm just advising them. I'm not chasing these girls, I'm not chasing all of them. They're just calling me. Guys and girls. So from when I knew him as growing into, in our 20s, past our 20s, he already had that, just to give people his time. He was always that kind of guy. He would give you his time, he would call you to check on you, and he would talk to you for as long as, sometimes me and Steve used to talk on the phone, next thing I hear him snoring. So he'll give you that kind of time that he can actually even fall asleep on the phone, just making sure that whatever it is you have to say it to me, I want to listen.
It's probably one of the best people I've ever met, I've ever known, closer to me than even some members of my family. My family members would be like, what? But yeah, he was basically a member of our family. I mean, my mom knew him very well, and my 93-year-old mother is absolutely heartbroken because, Steve, who used to just show up, turn up with a bunch of flowers for her.
So Steve was actually one of my really good friends at uni. So like I said, it was a bunch of guys, a bunch of girls. Because I studied, because of my secondary school, I did my secondary school in Nigeria, and I moved over to the UK. It was always very refreshing to see other people like myself who had done secondary school in Nigeria and then uni in the UK. So I guess it was something that bonded us together. So Steve, Jason, Troy, a few of the guys, my friend Naomi, Amaka, we were all kind of in the same boat. So it was quite refreshing to just hang out. But Steve in particular was such a lovely, he was really lovely. No airs about him, just always looking for a jolly good, he was always into, let's go out, there's an event happening here, do you want to come? And I particularly enjoyed going out as well. So with Steve, it was just a friend, and it was a friend that I was very comfortable with. And to be fair, the whole crew, we were all quite friendly.
The first thing the word everyone's going to say is passionate. I don't think a lot of people have seen Steve angry, but obviously since we grew up with it, we would have seen that side. So I know some people say, they haven't seen him argue, but there was a time when we'll be talking as a crew, everyone's got a loud voice, so it almost seemed like talking was arguing. People always say, why are you guys arguing? But no, we're just talking. So, when Steve has something that he wants to do, no one can stop him, and that's even in a conversation. If he's got something he's got to say to you, he's got to say it.
Hi, my name is Uncle Ade, aka the Voice Coach. I used to be Steve's lecturer at university maybe 15 years ago when he decided, first of all, that he wanted to get into the music industry. And actually, funny enough, it was Bimbo who actually saw the course online and encouraged him to take it. You want to do this, then you should train to do it. And that's how we met.
Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Jide Lemom, otherwise known as Mr. Momelo. I'm a DJ as well as an MC for events. I met Mr. Steve Spotlight Osagie over 25 years ago. Basketball basically brought us together. We were rivals for ACS basketball teams. And through the years, in the industry, I've also met him, seen him in a lot of events that, he's either doing or I'm doing, or, we've got mutual friends that are doing.
I didn't really know Steve's early days in Nigeria, but when he got to the UK and was heavily into promotion and doing parties and stuff like that, that's when we connected.
And we grew up together. We did music, during promotions, Marvel Lounge, Grab the Mic. I even remember when we used to host house parties and stuff, people didn't have, because I think, that was when I met Skills, right? Because we did a house party in Wandsworth.
Back then, I was a DJ. I was popular for creating a mix CD called Breakdown Mega Mix. And then shortly after that, I started doing house parties. And Steve called me to DJ in one of his parties. And I remembered I got there with 2 big turntables, a crate full of records, and we were DJing amplifiers.
We had to bring a whole deck amplifier, because that's how old we were. We brought the amplifiers and vinyls and stuff. And So we've been like that. Steve has always been a loud character, and in a good way. He's, for us, a connector. He's always the one that is always seeing the positive things and things that can be done and why we need to do things, and is always setting trends, right?
He was a very good organizer, and he put together an amazing party where a lot of people from different universities came. I started DJing, and everyone had a brilliant time. After that, he came up to me and was talking to me that, yo, I like your crew, you should bring them along, your big brother's crew, you should bring them along. He was organizing like I think it's like Marvel Lounge or something in Brixton. I think it was Plan B or something. But anyways, he invited me and my guys over to come and perform at this venue. And yes, he was just pushing himself as a promoter. And that was the Steve Spotlight that I first met.
I think it was last year of uni. So I would bump into Steve as I do all the time, student union. So on this particular day, I bumped into him, so we got talking, and we're talking outside. And then I said, look, okay, after like a few minutes, okay, I'm off now, I'll see you later. And then he said, look, and then I looked, and then the next thing, his face was on my face. So that was really cheeky of him and very funny. But the funny thing was, after that happened, he must have triggered something inside of me. I'm like, okay, dude, you know. And then after that incident, then we went to a friend's party. And then at this party, we danced a bit more. Yeah, and I think after that, I just realized that actually he really likes me. And I liked him as well, because he was a very easy person to like and to be friends with. And then it so happened that in that same era, my boyfriend at the time, after, we're coming to the third year of uni, he didn't have any plans of staying in the UK. He was going to move back to Nigeria. I obviously didn't have any plans of moving back to Nigeria, so I think that relationship kind of just fizzled out and we called it quits. And then Steve came into the big picture.
My name is Mrs. Sadenike Banjo, mother to Bimbola Osagie, wife to Steve Osagie. When Bimbola was doing her graduation, year 2002, I met Steve there, but Bimbola didn't introduce him. But I know, as they were going here and there, I know that that's the man for my daughter.
At the graduation, photograph, after he had graduated, and that very day, the ceremony, we had this photograph, group photograph, family and friends. Bimbo was very prominent. Then serious talk started. That was the girl met at university, and they were doing very well together. So okay, Bimbo, some introduction was made during that type of refreshment, after the ceremony. I think that was my first close relationship with Bimbo.
Men came to the church to find women. I think it was the other way around. Is the women took the guys to the church so that we can't run away. So, but yeah, myself and Steve started up in the church at the back, where the noisemakers always, where the wives can't reach you, and we started to do the technical stuff, and the music, the technical stuff. Then it blew out into, we became more friends than family, and more family than friends.
So I used to travel to Atlanta a lot because I had cousins and stuff in Atlanta, and I think on one of the occasions he asked me to make a stop at his brother's. So I did, and I met his brothers, really cool. And I don't know what he told them. Maybe he told them we were dating, I don't know, but they were quite open and receptive of me, which was quite refreshing. And I remember one of the trips where his mom came to the UK as well. When I went to say hello to him, he made sure that I met his mom, and she was really lovely. Again, I don't know what he said to her, But it was just, you know, even at the time when we were not officially dating, I'd met every member of his family. I was quite comfortable with them. They were quite lovely to me. So I guess when the relationship then evolved, it was just easy to just slot into the family.
I didn't really know Bimbo at that time, but Steve told me those university days was when they got together and things sparked off. So I want to know exactly how things happened. And first account is always the best. So let's hear from everybody that was there.
He told me Bimbo is his friend, that he go attend the same university. And later I said, Mommy is the person I'm going to marry. And I said, have you studied her very well? I said, yes, Mommy, he's a good person. I said, okay. Since it's your choice, there's nothing we can do about it. So
Bimbo came, the relationship was perfect. And he told us, and we looked around. I was particularly happy that he didn't choose a foreigner or a white, which was the model at that time. Young people are married to Igbo or to Pesi. He chose, Bimbo, a Nigerian for that matter. It gave me internal pleasure and happiness.
So 5 years later was when we officially said, look, we're gonna do this, you know, I'm your boyfriend, you're my girlfriend. So we officially started dating, even though we'd been spending a lot of time beforehand, but we officially started dating 2003. Now, at the time, when I say official, it was the time where we actually said, look, this isn't just hanging out, this is leading to marriage. So I always knew from 2003 that was leading to marriage. So it was just a case of whenever that was going to happen.
So one evening, Steve came to me, said, Mommy, I want to propose for Bimbola. I said, oh, thank God, oh. I just made jest. I said, oh, thank God. So I prayed for him, and then I told him, I said, my daughter has a calling. I know you're a Christian, but I know that my daughter has a calling on her. So what I want from you is that, will you allow him to do according to what God has ordained in her life? He said, yes, Mommy, anything she wants, I will do.
As usual, you know, we go out a lot. So on this particular day, we're going to go for a meal in Fulham. The restaurant, if I can remember, I think it's Blue Elephant. I think it's Blue Elephant, but it's a really nice Oriental restaurant in Fulham. So we did. Now, I remember my friend calling me that day and saying, hey, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm going out. Steve and I are going out. And then she was teasing me. I said, oh, what you wearing? Make sure you look really nice, you know, which isn't unusual. However, I thought, for a split second, I thought, why is she telling me to look really nice? But anyway, again, it wasn't unusual. So we went to the restaurant, and I think Steve had intended to propose at this restaurant, but he chickened out. So we had a good meal, and then on our drive back to London, the drive back to South London, from Fulham, you would go through Chelsea, Battersea, that area. So basically like 3 bridges. So anyway, when we got to the area around Chelsea Bridge, Steve then decides that he wants to stop the car so we can go for a walk. And I'm like, dude, it's cold. Why are we going for a walk? Like, why do we need to go for this? Is in our neighborhood. You know, why? The Chelsea Bridge is so beautiful. Anyway, I reluctantly agreed. We parked the car, and then we went for a walk. So as we got on the bridge, a few steps onto the bridge, the next thing, he goes down on his knees, and then he starts to propose. And if you know Chelsea Bridge, the cars coming and going. So literally, everyone stopped, and were cheering us on. But what was very, very beautiful, and I don't think he planned it, I think it was just the God that just made it happen, was as he was doing that, as soon as he proposed, the lights went out. So it must have been just before midnight, or whatever time Chelsea Bridge light goes out. So it was literally like everything was set up for that. So that made it really, really special. So yeah, he proposed to me on Chelsea Bridge. I said yes, everybody clapped. bystanders and people that were driving, and then the lights went out. It was so beautiful.
And then when they came back again, I think he came to me again that he has proposed. I think 2 of them came to me that night, that evening. That's, oh, so Bimbola was showing me her ring. So I said, okay, thank God. Yeah. So the next thing now is marriage, isn't it? So he said, Mommy, don't worry, I will do everything that you want us to do. Yeah.
So I said to my mom, look, Daddy's not going to be here. You're going to have to walk me down the aisle.
Bimbola said, because they didn't give her dad visa from Jamaica, so she said, I will be the one that will walk her to the house. I said, me? We don't do that in Nigeria. Hey.
As the usual traditional Nigerian woman, she's like, no. We'll get one of your older brothers, cousin, auntie, uncle. So my mom literally starts reading out names of people in my family, male figures. And then I said to her, I said, no, because as far as I'm concerned, there's a reason for the handing, walking down the aisle and handing over to your husband. And for me, it's he or she that has parental authority over you, or some sort of authority over you, is the one that literally, it's like a transference of authority to the next part, to your husband. So I said, none of those people that you've mentioned have such a role, play such a role in my life. And even if they did to an extent, the fact that you are still alive means you are better placed and better suited to take on this role. She said, no, it wouldn't look good. Your dad's family will say this, that.
I was not happy about that because I don't want any taboo, because I think it's taboo for me to walk her to the house. But I think during that time, I called my pastor. I reported this situation to my pastor. My pastor said, Mommy, your daughter wants you to do it. You have to do it. I said, okay, if my pastor said, and then I prayed with my pastor. I said, Mommy, just go on.
So yeah, my mom walked me down the aisle. And I guess it just goes to show that I'm not really a traditional type person. It has to make sense before I do anything. And for me, that made perfect sense. So yeah, she walked me down the aisle. Then another thing that was significant about my wedding was Steve was very nervous. He was so nervous. So obviously I didn't see this part, but I was told that he was nervous. He was pacing back and forth. Like, am I doing the right thing? I guess maybe most men do that, I don't know, but apparently he was very, very nervous. But the day was quite beautiful. It was very beautiful. It was really lovely. It was everything that we wanted, except for my dad being present. But other than that, it was everything we wanted. All of our friends were there.
Many people came from Nigeria, from America for the wedding. In fact, it was a great wedding. And they were happy, they were proud. We were proud. We were happy we were able to do it. That's why, because I still remember all the Ashwebi, whatever, I made them from Nigeria, whatever. So, and all my cousins, my sister that I have supported in life, they all joined to make the wedding a successful one. It was a big wedding, and we were so proud.
We got a place in City Hall, Wandsworth, where we live here, and it was glamorous. The parents were there. We also had all our friends. It was really good, and essentially that there was one thing unique about Steve. When I married the mother, I had a best friend. I mean, a best man. But Steve said he had so many friends. He had 7 of his friends with same shoes, everything, one as his best man. Where have you ever seen this thing before? 7 people to be your best man at the wedding. And they all came. And it was really my first experience of seeing a wedding, not one best man, but 7.
Immediately they got married. I thank God that the church they were attending then, it was fantastic. So the pastor continued to talk to him, and I can see difference in his life. In the marriage itself, the love he has for Bimbola, and then when they started having children, it was fantastic.
We got married 2008. Bishop came 2010. So we had 2 years. So we knew that we wanted to wait before we had the children. And I think those years, those beginning years, I would consider myself a really good wife. I have memories of me waking up on a Saturday, going to this market and that market and buying food items, coming home, cleaning, cooking, making sure there was a lot of food for my husband. Just, literally spend my entire weekend cooking. I don't do that anymore, by the way. But in those good old days, I used to do that. We also did we tried to do a bit of traveling at the beginning. Not so much as we would have loved to, but we did probably a bit in the second year. Steve, I got to, so again, we didn't live together, so I didn't know anything about his living habits, dirty habits, good habits. So one of his habits, and one of the things that I found was he would leave a lot of things everywhere, and he expected me to pick up after him. So he would say things like, Bimbo, have you found my socks? Bimbo, have you seen my shirt? Bimbo, and I think initially I was quite like, okay, well, don't worry, I'll look for it for you. And then I think after a while, I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to look for your own socks. I remember this particular way he was really genuinely expecting me to help him, and he was surprised that I wasn't. And then I said to him, but why do you leave your things around? And then he said to me, do you know that I've always had people, picking up after me? And he said that genuinely because Steve was the last of 3 boys in an African household. In Steve's house, they had lots and lots of people that lived with them. Aunties, uncles, aunties on the mommy's side, aunties on daddy's side, house help. They had help. So it was very okay. It was his usual. It wasn't a new thing for him to be looked after and pampered. So he brought that into the marriage. So I had to let him know that it's not like that.
For a year and a half, they didn't, have any child. I said, Steve, what is wrong? People will laugh at us. So.
Because when they married, they didn't have the children immediately. Parents will want your children to have their grandchildren immediately. But see these two daughters. So,
after 1 year, 2 years, you are not having, then eventually, Bishop came.
Bimbola keep it on. Called me and said, Mommy, your daughter is pregnant now. I said, hey, thank God, oh. And then not long time after, Bimbola, Steve, it was their husband that would tell me that their wife got pregnant. So after that, they had the baby.
He named the first son at the ceremony as Bishop. Then I said, they must have Nigerian name, and eventually I named Bishop Osatohame. In Benin, it means God has blessed me.
Bishop's birthing experience was such a beautiful one, and it was one that really it was one of the memorable events of our marriage. Because one, we didn't have Bishop in the UK. We had decided that we would have our children in America. Now, as far back as 2010, I don't think there was, I think things like sat-nav and stuff wasn't that common. So you had to rely on like your paper maps, basically. So here we was in a completely new town, with a new country. I mean, of course, his brothers lived there, but we got there and we had to navigate ourselves around, going from downtown Atlanta to wherever his brothers lived, up in the sticks somewhere. And just that going back and forth, doing hospital appointments, It was so lovely. It was a good experience for the two of us. And then we had Bishop, and just the excitement of having this child. Just seeing Bishop look like daddy and his granddad as well.
On returning from America, they brought a bouncy baby boy. I was so happy because he's my second grandson. And I was so happy because he's very handsome boy.
Immediately they came from America. I think they came straight here. And we were so happy. And that was, as I now, it's a father. I used to run here and there. So we are so happy, so happy.
Steve had a lot of time, so he was very involved in Bishop. It was, and I think I went back to work, which meant I had to leave Bishop with my mom. And of course, Steve then started to do his own thing, and his work was quite flexible. So Steve actually was the present parent for Bishop. The most parts of the day time was Steve. So when I'm at work, Steve would send me pictures. So to be perfectly honest, I missed out on some of the things that Bishop, just like Bishop's first walk, Bishop's first sound. I missed out. I wasn't physically there to witness a lot of them, but Steve did. So he was quite a hands-on dad.
Steve is very caring. In fact, I would want Steve to come back to marry my daughter again, because that man, Steve, is a good and caring father, caring husband, caring and everything.
And then Megan came. So I told Steve from the very beginning I wanted to have 6 children. And he thought I was joking. And I said, I need to have those children back to back as well. So Megan was literally, so I was pregnant with Megan when Bishop was 9 months old. And again, we were going to do exactly the same thing. Go to America, have this baby.
As Bishop was born in America, they were to travel to America again. A few days before, after making all preparations and arrangements, I think that girl refused to go to America.
Because I still remember they were to travel to US to have Megan. And before we know it, Megan was already there. They couldn't make the journey again.
At 36 weeks, Megan decides to show up. Now, our ticket was booked to go to America at 37 weeks because I just assumed because Bishop came at 39 weeks, Megan will follow at 39 weeks. And then also I was working, so I didn't want her to leave work, especially as I was going to a different country. So we had booked our ticket to travel for the birth of Megan. And then one day I was on the train into London Bridge, and then I started to contract. And I'm like, this is a joke, right? So I called Steve. I said, Steve, something is happening. I don't know what. I don't know. And then Steve was like, do not have my child in this country. Hold it together.
And Megan came virtually quickly without any problem.
So eventually Megan was born here.
Now what was interesting was, because I've been speaking to Steve all this while, I said, Steve, this baby is coming. So Steve decided, okay, don't worry, I'm coming, I'm on my way. And we didn't think, City of London, train. So we decided to drive. So we didn't think of train. So Steve got in the car to drive up to meet me. And he got to the hospital, and as he was parking his car, the baby came out. So he actually missed the birth of Megan, and it was literally on the hospital grounds. He just missed the baby coming out. But again, as usual, he just went straight into doing his fatherly stuff. Again, with Megan, I went back to work very quickly as well. So Steve filled the gap. And it was just so nice. Now we had a boy, then we have a girl. One looks like mommy, one looks like daddy. Well, Steve's mom and dad, because clearly I was just the carrier.
I had this wonderful song called We Are Africans, and it was making waves all across the diaspora and in Nigeria. But I didn't have a connection or anyone in Lagos that would help me get into the market, and I was really eager to go back to Nigeria. So a very good friend of mine and my business partner, Caroline, called me one day and said, there's this guy, he's really, really good, and he's passionate about promotion, and he really wants to manage you, and he wants to take you to the next step. And I was like, oh, I don't know. But you know what? Never say never, because you never know. Let's set up a meeting and let's talk. So she set up the meeting with Steve. I opened the door, I looked, and I was like, Steve. And he was like, yeah, what up, JJC? And I was like, what, you're the manager? He said, yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't really know you as a music manager. I know you as a promoter, but not as a music manager. But he was able to convince me that he was going to make my dreams come true. He was going to fight my corner. And Steve, in his usual way, you know, assured me he was the right man for the job and he was ready to make it happen.
But so yeah, he came to me one day and said, look, we're going to go to Nigeria and we're going to do this and we're going to do that.
He met JJC, who was practicing here, mass media, who decided to go to Nigeria.
And it was very difficult to jump at that idea because now we have two babies, not two grown-up, two baby, not even two children, two babies. We had two babies. One that was just one is literally a few months or a few weeks old, and then one that's just a year or two. So that was difficult to even comprehend or to accept.
I wanted to create a new generation of artists called Big Boys Entertainment. And Steve, myself, Caroline, and Rosie worked together to select the artists and groom them in the UK. And Steve and I and the artist decided to go back to Nigeria to start the massive promotion of Big Boys Entertainment. And that was the moment that me and Steve became brothers.
They all moved to Nigeria. I can still remember he telling me, Mommy, it's my good friend. We need to move to Nigeria. Or looking for a place to stay. And I still remember we just built our house at Agidingbi. And we now said, talk to his father to give them a space. It's okay. My husband has said, okay, there's no problem.
When JJC arrived in Nigeria, I already come to London, and so the new house we built at Agidingbi there was very vacant. Nobody there, only my wife was there with the sister. So Steve, said his JJC was, needed to settle at least before getting his accommodation. Met my wife, and with my approval, they came in and settled there together with his entourage and troops.
On arrival to Nigeria, it was crazy. Literally, Steve was an amazing person because him, the mother, the father, just became our backbone in Nigeria. Steve's parents gave their whole house to us, and we had different rooms where the boys, the girls, me, Steve just took over everywhere. And the dad gave us his car, and we used to just jam together. And we had a friend of ours called DK, who himself brought his car over, and together we just used to move around.
My name is Kola Olatunji, aka DK Don Corleone. Steve is a very, very good friend, a family friend, a friend of mine and my wife. He came to Nigeria with JJC and the artists. And I remember then, because I had a space bus then, when they had interviews and shows and everything, Steve would call me, yo, DK, we need to go to this place. I would roll up in the space bus, everybody get inside.
The Big Boys movement was really, really exciting. Steve managed everything.
My name is Adeolu Bello. Well, some people know me as Avi Fresh. Steve was, I would say, I wouldn't even say my manager, Steve was our manager.
My name is Tipsy, and Steve was everything pretty much. He was like the manager, the uncle, the dad, the annoying uncle that will wake you up at 5 a.m. 5 a.m., everybody, let's go for the interview.
5 minutes, get up. 5 minutes, let's go, interview time. You know who it is, the Spotlight.
He was literally like this every 2 seconds. Hello, yes, we're coming to the radio station now. Skills, get up, time to go to the radio station.
Our landlord, it was the manager, it was the uncle, it was like, I think like everybody around us at that time would say the annoying uncle. It was annoying, but it was giving us something we called discipline at the time. Something that we didn't think we needed, but we needed it at the time. Mr. Steve would wake us up at all this time. 5 minutes, you're going to Unilag FM now. Okay, you did tell us this yesterday now. Oh yeah.
Then, hello, yes, we're coming to the TV station next. Okay, bye. Hello, yes, we're coming to the magazine. He was just connecting everything. He was a multitasker. He had so much passion. And while doing this, every 2 seconds, you hear him on the phone. Bimbo, how you doing, darling? How are the children? How's your name? Okay, let me say hello. Even though he was a baby, he would still be like, hello, daddy, love you, coochie, coochie.
So in that, there was probably about 5 years, so there was a 5-year gap between Megan and Benjamin. And in those 5 years was a lot of the going back and forth. And, you know, a lot of the time when Steve left, he was always so excited going because it was, you know, and was like, oh yeah, I've got this to do. When I hit the ground running, as soon as I get there, this person will pick me up and I'll get my SIM card and this, and tomorrow I've got an interview and this and that. And you know, it was nice to see or to hear him. But at the same time, it was hard on my side as well. But I think, and I hope that, and I'm sure that actually I know because he's told me a few times, I was very supportive. I definitely gave him my support. I gave him my support because I wanted him to succeed in whatever it is that he was going to do. And it was easy for me to want that because he also encouraged me to do the things that I did. Like, I would make the show. I've always been into property. I've always loved property. And I would find a property, tell Steve about it, and Steve would tell me, have you done the numbers? Does it make sense? Go for it. Like, he wouldn't even ask me anything. Like, he wouldn't tell me, oh, let me think about it. Like, he wouldn't say anything that would discourage me or make me feel like I couldn't make that decision by myself. So I saw how he respected my decision making. So I guess it was only fair for me to respect his decision making as well. When Steve was, I remember before we got married, and even when we got married, Steve would work, and then he had an opportunity to do a lot of overtime. He would work, push, do a lot of overtime. And as soon as he got paid, he would say, oh, Bimbo, that job that I did, they've paid me. Which account should I send it to? So he's basically saying to me, where can I send all of that money to? So for someone that did that and continuously does that, it was never an issue. Even though, yes, him going back and forth was quite draining our finances, it wasn't a big issue because, you know, he was very generous with his money.
My name is Kehinde Imam. A producer and an entertainment consultant. I think I got a call from JJC from the UK about him promoting some new artists he just signed, Big Brothers at the time. And then from there, me and him had a connection, and then I started working for them because I was in charge of the library back then at Sound City, where I worked. And so I was basically I took on the responsibility of promoting their videos and their stuff. Anything JJC, I was always on top of it, and then do my best to push, his artist and himself and everything. So I think we established that relationship at that point, and then from then on, when it came to Nigeria, I think the first time was when I now met Steve.
Whenever there was a problem, he would fix it. He didn't need to ask him, he just always identified the problem and then he'd just go and fix it straight away.
And Steve, all the JJC troop, they were in Nigeria in my house. All I just need to do is to walk upstairs, go to my room, some my producers, one room, others are up. But for me as a mother, I was happy seeing all of them doing something, because I know one day they will become an achiever. They will get to somewhere. So that one gave me a piece of joy. They never misbehave in my house. So I was so happy about that.
After that, just one thing, what my wife was telling me again from Nigeria was that all Nollywood celebrities were coming to our house. Coming to our house because of JJC, and the type of vehicles and new model things. Our house became a big hive of social media celebrities. Our house became a center of icon personalities, which was very good. It also promoted our area.
Because he was very passionate about anything and everything, when he's telling you about anything that he's passionate about, you're gonna get passionate about it too. Like, there's just no two ways about it. So when he talks about going to Nigeria and having to do this, I understood the vision, not fully, but at least as much as he was able to take.
Me and Steve had that thing about being there for our children. And I remember no matter what I used to do, he would help me to make sure I get back to London to celebrate my children's birthday, and I will help him to make sure that he gets back home to be there for his wife. I think they had like a timeline. I think it was like maximum of 8 weeks or 12 weeks, then he has to be back home to come and spend some time with her.
And I think one of the things that we then put in place was, if you're going to do this, these are going to be some of the terms of you going to do this. So for example, if you had to be out of the country, you wouldn't be gone for more than a period of time, and you had to come back home. And if you're going to be out of the country, you have to make sure that you're very linked into what's going on back at home. I don't want to hear stories about, I can't reach you for days. Like, that's not going to happen.
But Steve absolutely went all out for us. No one could rest. He was banging on everyone's doors. You try to sleep, Steve will be on your case. And as soon as Steve gets you working and you are out there working, then he will pass out.
He would call. When we spoke, you might say things like, okay, I'm getting everybody ready, we're going out, just now what people are gonna eat. I haven't eaten all day, but I'm just trying to sort out what these kids and guys are gonna eat. And of course, at the time you had the younger artists, the older artists, and he would do all that stuff. And I've been listening to this guy on the phone saying, so you mean you can do all these things? Okay. So one day when he came back to the UK, I told him off. I said, Steve, hold on a minute. When you come back to the UK, you leave the stuff for me to do. But you are the same person that is able to get people up and about in Nigeria. So that means you're taking the piss. I told him, you are taking the mic. You obviously have it in you to gather people together, sort people out. So when you come to the UK, so I think what it was for him was when he was in Nigeria, he put in a lot of work and he was probably really tired. So when he came back to the UK, it was his chance to rest. So Steve would come to the UK looking for rest. Whereas I'm like, Steve is coming, let me rest. So there was always that clash. I'm looking to rest, he's looking to rest. So there was a clash.
One thing about Steve is he never really only focused on me. Let me explain what he used to do with me. So Steve will say, hello guys, I have JJC with me and he wants to do an event. And people will agree. But the moment he makes that booking, he will now call this manager and that manager, and then he will bring all these upcoming artists along and he will try and help so many people. So by the time we get to the place, I'm like, who are all these people? And he was like, Skills, we are the people that will open doors for people. We have to help everyone. That's our responsibility. So Steve has always been that kind of person that every 2 seconds is always using the opportunities or the leverage we had. Instead of focusing really on me, he was using it to help everyone and bring everyone along. And I couldn't really argue because my motto was, together we stand, divided we fall. And
every time he went as well, there was always a prayer point because of course Nigeria wasn't as safe as the UK. So every time I would go, I'll be so You know, like literally my heart would be here. And I remember on one of those trips, God said to me, you need to calm down, you know, because I was always so fearful. And because most of the things that he did was in the night as well, you know, going out for an event, it was in the evening. So I used to be so fearful. And then God had to just tell me to calm down and just give him over to him. So obviously every time he goes, he would, you know, just say, Lord, just take over and let him come back safely. And, you know, God was faithful, took him there, came back, took him there, came back.
My name is Sharifuddin Salahuddin. Ilalia Mom, inshallah.
Hello, I'm Abby Babalola, and this is Ruby Babalola.
Hi.
And I'm a very old friend of Steve's. We've known each other, well, I've known Steve since I was 16.
Hi, I'm Sade Aboderi Shady Blue, and I was Steve's friend, and he was more like a brother to me, and we also worked together in the music.
Steve is the only guy, one of the only guys that I've met that helped me without expecting anything back. And you hardly find guys like that anymore. He just helped me, and that was it.
We started working in 2006, but I met him way before that. Maybe when maybe 2000 or before that, Black Marble days.
Steve has been a force in my family's life.
Steve is a kind of person that even words cannot describe him. I think the best word to say is an angel, because he can go extremely hard. I remember my first experience in London. Steve was the one that made those journeys so smooth.
Steve has been the older brother that I never had. I'm the first in my family, so he's been like a brother to me. And my mom always said to me, do you know that that's one of the realest friends you have? My mother used to say that to me because in any situation I'm in, Steve always finds a way to show up to any situation I may be going through.
My name is Benjamin. Steve is my boss. You know, I worked with him with few other artists.
My name is Adebukola Kadiri. I'm the CEO of the design platform. I've got a product line called TDP Home, which Steve inspired.
I'm Lillian. I'm Vivian. And together we're LV. So we've known Steve a very long time. We worked with Steve in our days of Cocoa Bar. Yes. He always tried to protect us from industry vultures. Yeah.
The first time I met Steve must have been years and years ago, well over 10 years. Like I said, I met Bimbola first. Bimbola is a good friend and sister to me. And of course, marrying Steve meant that I would meet her husband, and yeah.
I met him on LinkedIn when I just finished my, from Music Business Africa. So I was looking for where to do my internship. So I was just messaging random people on LinkedIn, and Mr. Steve replied, and you know, he gave me a chance to intern with him. You know, so that was how we met, and I started working with him.
Steve was my business mentor. He was an inspiration to me in many ways. He was a selfless person who cared so much. You don't find so many people that care about the things that you love. But Steve was one person that cared. He was a support system for me, my family, my business, most especially, as he mentored me. And he mentored me for free. So that's the kind of person Steve was.
We went to France for the medium, and Vivian wasn't coming, and I remember I was literally on the flight, literally crying my eyes out because Vivian wasn't there. I just felt, why you're leaving me here? But when I got to France, he came, picked me up, took me to my hotel room. I went to his apartment. He showed me everywhere what I needed to do. Little did Lillian know, but I had called Steve because I was heavily pregnant at the time. I had called Steve and I told him that, like, I wanted to surprise, oh gosh, this is so emotional. I wanted to surprise Lillian. And I had spoken to him and he said, you know what, yes. Lillian didn't even know I was coming. And he literally, yes, it couldn't have happened. And I could just, every time I watch the video, I haven't even been able to bring myself to believing that this is real, because every time I watch the video, I could just hear his voice. He'll be like, look at the twins, you know, and like, it doesn't make any sense, but I know that God knows all.
Steve is a family friend who has now become family. We went away on a birthday trip about 7-8 years ago. We went to Marbella, Spain, and Steve didn't know 90% of the guests, the people that were there, but he stood out. He was so friendly. He was so jovial. He was the life of the party. That's the kind of person Steve is. That's when I remember, you know, you go to a place and you don't know people, but then you still stand out. And people still, you know you, because all you're doing is cracking jokes, bringing people together, bringing smiles together. You know, it was just an amazing experience in Marbella. And I think a lot of people would not forget that about Steve. The people that we met, that Steve met through us, most especially, they talk about him very fondly.
From the first time I met Steve, you know, I'm a sucker for these beads and stuff. And I think I saw some in his hand that he came with that day. I was like, yo, bro, I like this bead you're wearing. You know, that I love this stuff a lot, man. That I don't mind having a number of them. If you are coming back from the UK, maybe next time, get some for me. And then immediately at that point in time, on the spot there, the one I told him I liked, in his wrist, he took it off and gave it to me.
When you are using Oyster, you're not using daily card. And you don't know when you don't touch in, you need to touch out. That once you come out from the train, you need to touch out. And I didn't touch out. And I joined the next train. So by the time for me to come out to meet Steve, I can see him, but I could not come out because I didn't touch out from where I was coming from. It was a big issue. So I remember at that train station, he walked down there to talk to the manager that said JJC. He didn't know. So the guy now say and reverse my money back. And I was able to touch out. But before this process, it takes us hours.
I started my business 7 years ago, interior design. And when Steve heard about this, he was really excited for me. He was a support system. He inspired my product line called TDP Home. He was the pillar of support that I needed. He talked me through it, he held me. He influenced a lot of decisions that I made, which went well. Steve, at the product launch, emceed the launch event in London. He did it for free. He was the support that many people would like. You know, you don't find a lot of people like Steve. He was really rare. He emceed the product launch and from then became my mentor.
The first time I met Mr. Steve physically was when he came to Nigeria. I was going to meet him. I had an accident. I had a deep cut on my knee, but I still didn't go back. I just wanted to see him because, you know, it's not everybody that gives you opportunity online, even if they've not seen you before. So I just had this wound, walking on the road with blood on my leg. You know, people were just looking at me like, Mr. Steve said, go back home. We don't need to see today. Go back home. I said, no, boss, we need to see. You know, we saw, and when he left Nigeria, he was still calling to check up on me, like, my guy, how is your leg? Take a picture of it and send to me. I was like, no, boss, why will I send this thing to you, you know? Mr. Steve was that person that was there, like he was there for everybody. With the artists we work with, he was there for them. Like, there are some things that Mr. Steve will do out from his own pocket for an artist, you know. That's the kind of person Mr. Steve, you know, is. And
I remember my first child. I stayed in their house when they were still in sitcom, you know, when he had his computer under the staircase, you know. And Bimbo as a Yoruba, that's the wife, you know. And I remember my first child, 2011, you know. It was Bimbo that did all sorts of shopping. Yeah. The boy is now a big boy now.
Let me go back to 2013. I'm always with him, but I remember there was a day he told me something. Dami, you know you can do this thing. You're always telling me you can't. You can do it. And I'm like, I will try. And it was like, there's nothing there. Is it not for you to handle camera? You can do it. Do that. I'm like, okay, I will try my best. And he's always pushing me to be a better version of myself. And one thing I love about him is anytime I'm having issues with JJC and I'm like, Mr. Steve, excuse is angry with me, he's shouting at me, this and that. You tell me, don't worry, I'll talk to you. I said, he said I should not come tomorrow. You go like, no, you come. Mr. Steve will give me money then.
My name is Ikechukwu Black Pharaoh Honora. I'm the director of the Orchard Distribution Company overseeing Nigeria and West Africa. And Steve is a very, very dear brother, friend of mine. I mean, we live literally about 20 minutes away from each other in the UK. It's like many people have said, this is a huge, huge tragedy.
But one thing I love about Mr. Steve was he actually saw some things in me that even when everybody was like, she can't get it done, Mr. Steve is always like, this girl, you don't know, she's a star, she's this, she's that. I'm like, star, I cannot stand in front of camera, so I will always remain behind the camera, so I cannot be a star. And he will go like, you will see what I'm telling you. You know you are beautiful. I'll go like, yes, I'm beautiful. Don't let anybody tell you less. I'll go like, yes. Didi. And I'm like,
about Steve on Clubhouse. And I remember when we used to have our meetings every Monday evening, and Steve sometimes would be late because he's on Clubhouse. We'd be like, just get off this Clubhouse and let's jump in this meeting. But the fact of the matter is, Steve was just spreading his love, his passion, his work, his mission. He was spreading it and making sure that it was touching as many souls as he needed it to. And you know, Clubhouse was very important to him. I remember when he got his blue tick on Instagram, when he became verified. Hey, brother, no let us see award. Hey, he took a picture of it, he sent it to all of us. And we had to celebrate him getting verified on Instagram. Cool. A magical soul, always smiling, always the first person to apologize, even if he didn't do anything wrong, but he would apologize on other people's behalf. He was always one trying to make everything work, find the good in everything.
I never really reached out to him as much as I should, because we've stayed 4 years apart, and I never reach out to him, but he always sends me messages randomly to just ask me, how are you doing, what's happening with you, what's happening with your music, and I just used to respond so fast, and that was it. I never took time to ask him how it was as much as I should.
Then the Big Boys project finished, and it was just only me and Steve. At that point, I decided to myself, you know what, Steve? I didn't want to do the artist, grooming artist anymore. I wanted to represent JJC again. And that's when I came out and I did the song African Skank. And me and Steve organized the music video in Lagos Island.
Shokoloza. Show me the dance again. It's swave to the it's on your heels.
Literally, it was a huge success, and we kept on pushing and kept on pushing.
My name is Steve Spotlight, manager to the most talented JJC Skills. You're on the set of Aero Video. We've got some more beautiful models here for you on the set of the Aero Video for JJC, Big Boys all day, every day. Number #1 producer. Believe me, I think.
Is that Steve?
Like, listen, she just made this happen. I gotta give credit to her. If you don't know about Terry, get to know about her, get to know about her company. For JC, who's a producer, to hand over the realms of his production to her, you gotta know she good.
I'm under duress,
She making
Being
it happen.
watched.
Yes, right now we actually coming in. Sorry if I'm cutting in. The makeup artist is doing her job. We're on the set of JC's Aero video. My name is Steve Spotlight. I'm taking you behind the scenes, letting you know the people that are making this video should happen. And I'm going to pass you on to the makeup artist, let you know who she is, how she's dolling up the already beautiful ladies on our set. And yeah, this is PRTV. Stay locked.
So because of the back and forth, back and forth to Nigeria, obviously the good times, the not so great times, they had some challenges as well. And then of course the impact it was having on our family life as well. So, and I used to say to him, surely there must be a way that you can do this from here. But of course, maybe other countries you can, but Nigeria is difficult too. And that's what Steve would say to me, look, Nigeria, if you're not on ground, nothing happens.
Me and Steve and Dad was sitting down watching TV one day, MITV, and the dad was like, JJC, this is your video team. You're supposed to use them well. I said, yes, sir, but I'm looking for the right opportunity. And he said, oh, you see this TV station? He's my friend. I know him very well. And he introduced me to Mr. Muri.
The same day, he didn't say I would think of it. He said, where are they? He said, they are downstairs. So I called him. They called him, as in his office. And he told his own manager to go and settle them in one of the studios.
That's actually the first time people got to see me as a content creator.
And I don't know what happened, but one day he came and said, okay, I'm going to spend more time in the UK for our family, and I'm just going to work on specific projects, and then I'll go back and forth as required, as opposed to the up and down, up and down.
I will ask again, say you will come. I think maybe that time she was trying to tell Steve that you just have to come back, especially the children, with the children, so that the children will be able to, you'll be able to connect more to your children than me alone, that is being Bola alone.
I wasn't opposed to the idea, but I was just scared that it would impact our marriage, it would impact our new family, and it would mean time away. And I used to really tease Steve a lot. I used to say, look, it's not just the kids. I'm a young bride. I'm a big, literally we just got married, so you can't just be going up and down, leaving me here.
Me and my husband just say, Steve just had 2 children, and it's so far away. The world is full of temptation or whatever. So my husband now decided that he has to come back to London.
My wife said, Steve, your wife is in London. You have had 2 children. And before you know it, there is this temptation. Return back to London. And he actually adhered to it and returned to London while JJC was in Nigeria.
That's when me and Steve literally stopped working together because I now moved into Nollywood.
But the link or the relationship continued. And if possible, it grew.
And then he came back to settle with them. And since then, he has been a fantastic husband.
After having the 2, Bishop and Megan, and at this point, Bishop and Megan are already in school, we then, and I said to him, so then we lived in a 2-bed house. And now we had 2 children and a nanny. So clearly the house was too small for the family. So the idea was we needed to move anyway because we needed to be closer to the school. And of course we weren't done with the babies yet as well. But the compromise or the decision was, if we're going to go for 3rd, we need a bigger house. So we started to look for a different house. closer to school, which we then found and we moved in 2014.
They had two of their children, and then they were about to having the third one.
And then that same time, his wife gave birth to another child, and then he had to go back to the UK. Then we became social media besties.
And then we decided to go for baby number 3. So Benjamin came 2016.
Benjamin came. The family becoming bigger, and their house, the house they were before, they bought another bigger house, and things were moving in well. I know at the time he was working. Bimbo was always working, and the children, he taking care of the children. Never, make sure the children are okay. The activity, make sure they attend the activity. He was just there for the children, and never fail as a good father.
Benjamin came, like others, in America, and they came here, and it was all as usual, glorious and celebrations. And at the very, very early age, that boy showed his distinction again. And up to today, I hardly call him Benjamin. I call him Professor. Because he's very unique, very, very, very smart. And I know everybody's name influences somebody's career or character and the future something. He will become a professor. I have no doubt about that. Because he's so smart, so intelligent. And I'm very, very proud of Professor. Professor Benjamin Osagie.
And again, had him in America. We already moved to a bigger house. And then we just carried on from there. And then Ruby came 9 months after Benjamin was here.
Ruby is our baby. So because you always tell me, Mommy, do you know Ruby looks like you? Mommy, do you know Ruby looks like you? And always carry Ruby anywhere he goes, carry Ruby.
Ruby came in just as the other senior siblings in America. He had her, and we were also very, very happy.
And we literally just repeated the first batch. So I call them batch 1 and batch 2. So Megan and Bishop are first batch, Benjamin and Ruby are the second batch. And who knows, maybe we would have had a third batch. But maybe not. Yeah. So by the time Benjamin came along, we then knew that, wow, 3 is a lot of children. And then Ruby came, and I'm like no one had to tell us to stop. It was just a lot of work.
And I know that it's not easy, and both of them are still working then. So it's not easy for them to employ any or just to take their children when I'm here with them. So they said, Mommy, you have to come down to Swan Lake, Kent. So I said, okay. Yeah, and then I moved here in Swan Lake to live with them.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it was also really nice. It was nice to have the 2 batches of children. We had a bigger house, so it wasn't space wasn't an issue anymore. And the kids they were just quite a delight, to be honest. I wouldn't say I love kids like that. And I don't know if children love Steve, actually. Yeah, children love hanging out with Steve, and he's quite good with them. But yeah, having 4, I was like, okay, let's just settle down and just look after these kids. It's just a lot of work. But it just made our family I felt like it made our family complete as well. 2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah, it's really nice. Really nice. I love them.
So Steve, immediately he woke up in the morning, took the children to school, and then when immediately he comes back, he will be on the phone till in the midnight, not knowing that he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job.
If I go to bed before Steve, and I leave Steve in this house, I have to, I can't sleep. In my subconsciousness, I must wake up to come and check, because I cannot trust that Steve will have everything switched off, because he's here, he's there. So that means it's easy for him to forget things. Steve can put on the oven and forget that he put on the oven, and the thing will be there for a long time.
When I come down, I will see Steve boiling water. Maybe that water will... Steve will forget the water. If he's doing his noodles, he will forget it is that noodles burnt. So when I realized that this was what is going on, because I didn't come down before, but when I realized that every time he put something on the fire, it will burn. Since then, I said, anytime I see Steve going to the kitchen, I will definitely come down. And then immediately I will just put the cooker off. And Steve will not know. He will not know. Steve will not know until that. So now, he didn't even ask me anytime that, Mommy, were you the one that put... No, because he will not go there on time.
Steve can open the door and forget that he hasn't shut the door and he's moved on to something else because he's so busy. You know, so like things like that just used to make me a bit nervous. Used to make me a bit nervous. But yeah, it was because he was always busy. He had so much that he has to do. And I think sometimes it hinders him as well. I think sometimes it's hindered him from doing a lot more because his brain is not able to focus on one thing.
And I think the wife also normally tells him that, Steve, if you take something from the freezer, take it back. So if he doesn't take it back, I will just take it back because I know that it's because of his work. The work occupied him too much. But despite that, when it's time to play with the children, you will see Steve there. When it's time to play with the wife, you will see Steve there. And one thing, every of our birthday, Steve will come down early in the morning to prepare breakfast for all of us. All of us. At times, if I tell them that I don't eat in the morning, they say, Mommy, you are going to eat this one. So I just...
You know, so Steve was always into music. He was always into sports, into basketball. So Steve is not going to play basketball and he's not playing music, going to an event, doing anything music related. Then the other thing he was doing was watching TV or documentary or learning. So he was a good learner. He learned a lot. He was always wanting to sign up to one course or another course or another course. He was always into that.
He's a fantastic husband, loving. And Steve, we continue to ask my sisters. They say, Mommy, did you call your sister today? Did you know what is going with it? It's a family man. Honestly, he loves family too much. At times I would just sit down and say, hey, this man, every minute he will say, hey, that's auntie, she will not come to England again.
So I'm gonna be having a conversation with him and he goes, hey, how's Naomi? And I'm like, she's fine. And I'm thinking, why is he asking me my name? Hey, what about Tola? What about, and I'm like, so he does that a lot. Like he would just remember someone and then he will ask after them. And then sometimes I'll say to him, why don't you just call them yourself? Yeah, and it was very caring.
And obviously, every time he had the opportunity, he would come to Nigeria. And yes, I was the first person that would come and meet him at the airport. Yo,
who's that geezer? Who's that geezer? Welcome. Yeah.
Always. Anytime I'm in the UK, Steve was the person that would always pick me up. It was crazy, you know. Going home to England is never the same now.
Steve, what's up, man?
Hey, the result in the results. You understand? Like, this is a beautiful place, man. Yeah. You know?
What's up? What's up?
So, Steve called me around June, July, and he said, Skills, I'm coming to Nigeria, I'm nominated for some award, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll come pick you up at the airport. So I picked him up at the airport.
What you saying? Man like Steve Spotlight. Welcome.
He came over to my house, he stayed over at mine. We had fun, went out. He won the award, and he did an interview in my living room.
Hi, my name is Steve Osagie, also known as Steve Spotlight. That's what everybody knows me as. I'm a music manager for over 20 years, as well as an Afrobeat advocate, and also an artist consultant. And I'm passionate about pushing Afrobeats to the world, which we've been doing consistently for over the last 10 years.
That was the last time I saw Steve. And I remember even on that trip, he kept on, I need to go and meet this person. I need to go and meet this person. I have to go and see this person. And he was really just like, trying to reconnect with so many people as much as possible. That was the last time I saw Steve. And then, me and Steve always talk. We talk every other day, if not every day. Steve is kind of guy that I will call him in the morning. He will tell me everything that's happening today. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So maybe you can talk to me in about a couple hours, and I'll call him back in a couple hours. And he'll be like, yes, I'm just picking up the children right now. So I'm about to drop them. And then when I drop them, call me at this time. And so Steve was giving me the updates, you know. And
last time I saw Steve was in Atlanta, probably just barely a month to the day. He came down to the US, to New Jersey, saw his cousins, drove to Maryland, saw another set of cousins, came and stayed with me for like a week, stayed with Tony, our older brother, for like a week.
Probably September 6th or 7th, the first week of September for sure. He came, and out of the blue he called me up, I'm coming this summer. We see every December, so, you know, it's a normal thing. December, all the kids are out of school, and then he called me up and said, I'm coming over. It's like, say, why? You know, when we had this tip-tat, whatever you call it, and he wanted to, I was wondering, why are you coming? My kids are back in school. Your kids, maybe they're not back in school, but they're not going to have fun without the kids. You know, it's all about the kids for us, you know, how they interact. We always see, you know, we can see anytime, you know, I can take off a week and come see you, that's not a problem, but it's always about the kids having a good time together. And he came, and I kept asking him, and he had this journey, you know, everybody, I'm pretty sure it's been documented, how usually he comes to Atlanta. This time around, he decided to go to New York. He went to New York, whatever happened for him to see so many people in New York, drove to Baltimore, met some more people, then drove to Atlanta. I wasn't even in Atlanta when he came. I took my daughter to the university, and we came, we had a good time, and I kept asking him, and I sat him down and I said, Steve, what are you doing here? And that was the question, I kept on asking him, what are you doing here? And said, I just want to have an experience with the family. And we still had a good time. You know, it's Steve, we're always going to have a full good time no matter what. But that was my question to him, what are you doing in America? And apparently, he was coming to say goodbye.
I'm Sazu Agbontine and Steve's first cousin and childhood friend. In August, was it August 2nd, I got a message. I'm going to be in the States in 10 days, and I'm going to come through New York. I want to come through Maryland. I said, oh, you by yourself? I was like, cool. He said, no, I'm coming with the family. You know, I was like, that's a lot. You're going to do all that driving with 4 kids, and just like, that's nothing, you know. August 16th, he got into Maryland. We couldn't meet that day, so the next day, you know, we actually met at the White House, you know. I said, meet me there. We went on a tour, you know, through the National Mall, went to the African American Museum, you know, took pictures, the kids all had fun.
And last time I saw him in person was when we celebrated our birthday together in May, because we're both May babies. So in May, we celebrated our birthdays together. That was the last time I saw him.
I saw him early this year, if I can remember, if it is not January or February, he came to Lagos. I think he lodged in, I don't want to mention the name of the hotel. So he came with the wife and he had issue with his car and he was struggling with it, and I just called him down, come and take one of my car. It's available. I said, I said, I will be. And he came and he went with the car. I think after 5 days or 6 days, he just called. I said, don't stress yourself. Let me take Uber. He said, no, I will bring it myself because I came and pick it. So he brought the car, so I used my own car to go and drop him back at the hotel. And the next morning, straight to airport. You know, that was the last time I saw him. I was not in Lagos. I was out of the country totally. I think he came around June. And he now called me that I'm in Lagos for just a few days. I said, oh, crap. I'm not around now. Then by the time I would call Skill, he said, he just left this morning. I said, okay. That was the last time I can say I saw him. But based on some things that we are together, we need to solve out. So I think the last time I spoke with him before he passed on, maybe 2 weeks before the death.
The last time I saw Steve must have been, I was thinking really hard, must have been when I had my exhibition at Bournemouth in London. I showcased my product line, TDP Home, and he came out to support. As a matter of fact, I'd introduced him to the organizer of the event, and he came and gave a speech. Not just to give a speech, but he also came to support the business on the day. He came with Bimbala, and I remember clearly. He was there, and he even purchased. You know, he's such an influencer to me. You know, he influences so many things.
When I say I spoke to him, I had a crisis on Wednesday morning that I needed to, for those of you who live in the UK, you know sometimes we always move money from Nigeria to the UK, right? So I needed to move money ASAP. And the people who moved money for me didn't have the cash at hand to move immediately. Steve left whatever he was doing that Wednesday morning and made calls to sort my problem out. That's the kind of guy he is. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, he's the guy, like, if you call him, he's on it. My phone is not here. I would have played a voice note. I still have his voice notes for that Wednesday.
So the last time I saw him was the Sunday before the Thursday. And one of the good things about Steve, even though he was away looking after his mom, and he had been away since Friday, but by the Saturday, which is when the kids have all sorts of activities, I was literally all over the place, dropping one child, picking one child, doing one child, so I was exhausted.
He arrived here on Sunday. You know, my husband was not feeling fine.
4th of October, me and Steve spoke on the phone, and he's told me that Dad was feeling under the weather and he had to take them to the hospital. Dad and Mom was feeling a bit under the weather and he had to take Dad to the hospital. And
I actually didn't complain to him. I was just saying, you know, how you doing? Oh gosh, I'm just so tired. I've just been here, there. And he felt sorry for me. And this is Steve, so caring, always thinking about me and how I feel and so on and so forth. So by the next day, which was the Sunday, he had sent me the details of Bishop's football. So I was supposed to just take Bishop to football and pick him up, and you know, it would just have been another busy weekend with Steve not being here. But he was so concerned about me that he said, you know what, if you can drop him, I would come, just settle Mommy down, and then I'll come and take him, or I'll be there for football.
He came to take Bishop to football. So I saw him then when he took the boy to the football, and then came back. Immediately he came back, he just took off to Tooting.
on the 5th, he messaged me saying that he was at the hospital and that he's going to pick up Dad the next day. So he's going to stay over at Mom's. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem. And he was like trying to talk to me. I was trying to get hold of him, but he was saying to me that he's busy with Dad. So I said, you know what? Don't even worry. When you finish with Dad, message me back. We have all the time in the world.
No, my husband was on an admission because my younger brother was here, And my husband just came in. I was not, it's like I was panting, he was not breathing well. So my brother just said, why don't you call the doctor?
We were to go to Nigeria the following day. That was in September. I went shopping, and then returning, I saw that I was losing breath. When I reached home, I said to my wife, we are not going to Nigeria again tomorrow. She was very, very surprised and sad. I said, how? When all our luggages, we are booked, we have done everything, so we are not feeling well. She called an ambulance. Incidentally, or coincidentally, Steve, he phoned Steve, and he said he was coming to us because he would have slept here in our house and take us to the airport in the morning. So he said it was close to Balam. So we told him that your dad is not feeling fine and want to take him to the hospital. As Steve was arriving, the ambulance was arriving. Then took me to St. George's without my wife, and Steve was driving behind the ambulance.
So he actually called the doctor, and immediately they came and they tested him. They said he had to go to the hospital. So as he was going to the Osagie came. So they all went to the hospital together. They admitted my husband, and along the line, after admission, he has to come home.
So he didn't call me. And then by the time he called me, he was at home. So as soon as I heard his voice, I said, "See, where are you?" He said, "I'm at home." "I know what you mean you're at home. Why didn't you call me? Bishop and Megan and Ruby and Benji are at the party. Who's going to pick them up?" Da, 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 da. And he goes, "But you didn't tell me to pick them up." And I was like, "But I told you to call me before you left football." Anyway, I was actually on the way to pick them up myself. And then he said to me, "Okay, don't worry, I'll go. I called. We didn't really get to hang out properly that Sunday because he came, picked up the kids, got on his computer, did a couple of things, did a change of clothes, and then he left. So I never really got to, in fact, I remember when he was gonna just do the quick peck and then off he went. I didn't really, get to speak or talk or anything. So that was the last time I saw him.
I think he now stay with us. Stay with us. He was doing his work from home. We'll go out and come back.
And from then, he came to see us. From then, never went home again. He had 3 homes now. Hospital visit, the house where he was looking after the mother, and then monitoring what was going on in Kent, his family. He was coordinating everything. He moved here, without hesitating, and he stayed here for almost 2 weeks without changing clothes. Well, because he would come to the hospital, see me, the mother who was with him was heartbroken or sad that we were separated by my sickness on admission.
And then I guess everything carried on again. So Monday, the usual call in the morning, how the kids doing. He spoke to the kids, prayed with the kids, drove together to school. And what we would do, what we usually do is we would call in the morning and say, "Hey guys, come on, go get ready. Make sure you have your breakfast. Don't stress my mommy out. Make sure you're not late for school. Call me when you're in the car." And as soon as we got into the car, either I call him or Bishop calls him, and then we'll call him and put him on video WhatsApp. So he will be there, and then he will just pass the phone around to all the kids and speak to them, and then he'll bring the video back, and then sometimes he will speak to them, and then they will get up and "Hey, you haven't spoken to me. Why you speak to me as well?" So that was the routine. He would just be on the WhatsApp video, seeing everybody, making sure everyone's fine. And as soon as I dropped them, then we would carry on our conversation. So that's what we did Monday, in the morning, in the evening. Tuesday in the morning, in the evening.
On the 5th of September, they were to discharge me on the 6th. He first of all came to the hospital to see me. Even the manager in the ward together with the nurses, they related with him than they related with me as a patient.
Steve called me and he was charged up. Skills, you have to release your album again, you have to do this, you have to do that, let's put it out. I'm like, Steve, okay, put it out. And he was like, no, I need you to organize a remix. I said, you know what, just release the song for now, put it on iTunes, on what's it called, Instagram, put it on Instagram. Yeah, he was saying, I need to be posting on Instagram. I said, I didn't have the songs on Instagram. We released the songs before Instagram. He said, don't worry, he's gonna put it out right now. I said, you know what, Steve? Just relax. Finish with Dad, finish with Mom. When you get home, call me and then we'll revisit that conversation. And then that was it.
He told me, Mom, that he'll be going, that after they discharge that he will be going home. I said, okay. He said he has an event because he went home the previous day to get his clothes or tent. So he said he'll be going home. That actually what he said, I'm going to meet my madam. I said, okay. And I said, come. Bring my cards. I said, please, go and help me get some money. He said, Mommy, you always worry. I said, no, it's not for you. For the kids, let me use it to buy things for the kids. So he went and they sent my car. I don't know what was wrong with my car. And I said, give me my purse. And I opened this thing. I found some money in the wallet. I gave to him. He just knelt down. I'm telling you, he knelt down. I said, Mommy, time, because that's what he always do. No matter what I do to him, whenever I give to him, he always knelt down. Thank you, Ye. Domo Ye. That's what we always say. Domo Ye. That is what it means.
I was in the house alone. Bimbola has gone to her business. The children have gone to school.
And then on Wednesday, I had a training that I was leading. I was delivering a training. So between 7 and 9, I was doing my training. So by 9, few minutes past 9, he'd sent me a message saying, have you finished? Or how's your day going or something? So as soon as I got off the training course, I called. And I was saying to him like, oh gosh, I'm so tired. I just want to go and sleep. And then, so we just had like a quick chit chat, just caught up with our day, caught up his day, talked about the training. And then it was, I'll speak to you tomorrow. And that was it. And the tomorrow, I remember I woke up. I didn't call him when I woke up. In fact, I was leading a prayer call. And as soon as I finished the prayer call, my friend called me. So we talked a bit more. And then as we spoke, and then I remembered that, I needed Steve to book the hotel for our upcoming trip. So I sent him so rather than call him to tell him, I sent him a message and said, hey, can you make sure you book our trip, please? These are the dates again for your reference.
I said, okay. I said, that's okay. So I entered my room because I normally like to listen to some Bible lesson. 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock they start. So, and because I was not feeling too fine, I took some sleeping tablets. So I slept off. Then he now, came to his room also.
So, at night, 20 minutes past 11, can swear. He phoned me and said that when you are coming tomorrow, I'll come and take you. I have 2 events, but I'll come and take you after breakfast. After your breakfast, I'll come and take you home. Probably for the events they had.
So by the time I woke up around 8 o'clock, I quickly ran to the living room. And I saw him. Normally he would have taken his shower or whatever.
The morning I waited, I didn't see him.
Still lying there, I said, Osagie, I called him. Osagie, I wouldn't get up. Osagie, wouldn't. I called my one of our tenants also. I said, please come and help my son. He's not responding. So that one came. 2 of us helped to carry him down.
When my wife's friend phoned me and said that they called me daddy, and the children of the woman, they say their daddy as well. He said, daddy, he was crying. I said, Omo, you need problems. So I said, he's supposed to come and take me from the hospital. Now, I'm waiting for him. Only, Omo, Kosoromo, ambulance, you are London. Who?
He was not responding. It was not that one did pressing this thing for him. He tried. So I just ran to my neighbor. I said, I don't know what's wrong with my son. Oh. He's not talking again. He's not doing. So that one followed me. Before you know, they've already called ambulance. The ambulance, they try. They try 4 of them. I said, oh, he doesn't eat anyhow. He doesn't drink. I know he doesn't drink alcohol. If you leave wine here or inside the fridge on the table, it will just help you cock it well, go and place it. He will not drink. I had all I know about him. He doesn't take alcohol. And he doesn't eat well. If he wants to eat, he saw some fat or anything, he will. I say, you always like to do food. Then he'll say, Mommy, I've told you don't need all this fat. You don't need all this one. So, and the food we ate that day was still there. So I begged them they should help me to go and test it if there was anything wrong. Because when he came, he would just prepare whatever he wants or whatever. I knew he liked ogbolo, so whatever he liked, I just put it there. He was take it by himself. So we never knew what went wrong. He was not sick before first day because I saw him last.
Omoyi, say, who? He say Osagie. Because when he said Omoyi, I thought she was referring to her children. Now knowing it was, he said Omoyi, what will cause Osagie not to be talking? And ambulance is there. I've never known Steve to be sick to the extent of calling ambulance or for him to go to the hospital. To date, he had no medical records. When the paramedics came and said all them, took him away on the long run, they were asking for his medical record to see what actually happened that night. Steve had no medical record with any GP because he wasn't ever sick.
The store that I went to initially didn't have everything I wanted. So I went on to the second store. So whilst I was at the second store, I got a few more things. I looked at my phone and then I noticed that I missed a call from Mommy. In fact, a couple of hours prior, I'd called Daddy myself just to check in. I spoke to Daddy, it was fine. He told me, although it was a bit rushed off the phone, so he said, oh, there's an interview that he's doing right now, he has to go. So I assumed it was maybe the doctors were doing their rounds and they were asking him questions. So I got off the phone. So whilst I was in this store, I looked at my phone and I saw that Mommy had called and I missed her call. So I called her back. When I called her back, she didn't pick up. I just left it. Again, I hadn't spoken to Steve, but I didn't really think, at this point, I was too busy to even, and in my head, I'm like, look, whatever happens, I'm just going to tell him off for making me call him so many times. So Mommy's phone called back. So Mommy called back. So I picked up the phone, expecting to hear a voice, and then it was one of their uncles that said, hello, Bimbo. So of course, instantly I thought, that doesn't sound right. Why has he got Mommy's phone? And I said, is Mommy okay? Because Mommy is not feeling well. Daddy is not feeling well, which is why Steve was there. And I know I've spoken to Daddy earlier today, so I kind of know that he's fine. Mommy, on the other hand, somebody else is picking up her phone, so that scared me. So the first thing I asked was, is mommy okay? Auntie uncle says, yes, she's fine.
I was in bed in California, and my mom called me, and I think I was probably the first person she called, and said she couldn't. She was trying to wake Osagie up, and then she was frantic and gave the phone to the paramedic, and the paramedic told me they had pronounced him dead. So it was a big shock, but I don't understand the timing of it, but just leave everything in God's hand, and God knows the best.
So I said, and then he said to me, he said, where are you? Now, this is Steve's uncle. There's no reason on this earth why he would be asking me where I was. Like, that's not the question. The most you say is, how are you, Bimbo? So he's telling me, where am I? And I'm like, then immediately I thought, hold on. So I think I said to him, where are you? I don't even know my response, but in that moment, I then realized again, I hadn't spoken to my husband. So I said to him, please, can I speak to Steve? Are you there? Can I speak to Steve? And as soon as I mentioned Steve, the tone of his voice changed. Like, even though I couldn't see his face, but something changed. And then he said something to the effect of, I can't speak to you right now, or something like that. And he goes, where are you, Bimbo? Are you on your way? And then I said, so now, a friend of ours had told us how she got a call when her mom died. The whole, come down, where are you, da 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 da. So immediately I was asked that question, that memory came flooding back into my head. So immediately I knew something isn't right here. And they've confirmed that mommy is fine. I know that is fine. The only person that we haven't spoken to today is Steve. And I'm being told, where are you? Calm down. So my heart skipped. And when I asked, can I speak to Steve? He saw the reaction. And then at this point, he couldn't tell me anymore. And he really was rushing to get off the phone. So as soon as he got off the phone, I just slumped where I was. And this handyman that was with me said, Auntie, what's going on? I said, something is wrong with my husband. I didn't know what was the problem. I just said, something is wrong with my husband. And of course, the typical Nigerian, no, God forbid, nothing's wrong with your husband in Jesus' name. I said, something's wrong with my husband. And then the phone rang again. It was Steve's cousin from America. And he said, Bimbo, is it true? As soon as he said, I said, is what true? He instantly knew that I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he rushed off the phone as well. Couldn't say anything, was quick to drop off. He got off the phone. I just said to the guy, something has happened to my husband, something has happened to. So in my head, I'm thinking, something has happened to my husband. What could have happened to my husband? So I thought the best thing to do is, let me call his brother. So I called Tony. And as soon as Tony picked up, he says to me, where are you? So I knew for sure this is bad. And then I said, Tony, please, where's Saze? Where's Steve? I haven't spoken to him all day and I don't know what's going on. And then I said, is he dead? So I said that because I think in my head I was like, if I go to my worst case scenario, hopefully somebody would say, can you stop that nonsense talk? This is what's going on. As soon as I said that, his brother just burst into tears. So he burst into tears and I just knew that something was wrong. So I said, and then he kept saying to me, where are you? Just go. I said, please, I cannot, I'm so far from Tooting right now that I can't just drive or even get somebody to drive me without even having a clue what's going on. So I said, I beg you in the name of God, please tell me whatever you know. He then reluctantly said to me, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm told that Steve is not responding. Just go. So that was what he said to me. So the word responsive, he said responsive, it gave me a glimmer of hope. So even though I knew something wasn't right, I was just thinking response. And then I said to him, so I said, so have they called the ambulance? He said yes, that he thinks they've called the ambulance. I said, so where is he now? Expecting to hear, oh, he's in St. George's or he's in this hospital. And he said he's at home. And in my mind, I'm like, he's at home? He's not responding? Ambulance? That doesn't make sense. Somebody's not responding, you will immediately get them to get help. But I was still hopeful because he said he's unresponsive. So I'm like, okay, maybe he's in the coma. Maybe, like whatever it is, or maybe the ambulance guys are still doing something. So I called my sister. This one, I was shaking, I was crying. So I called my sister and said, Bolaji, please, where are you? I'm coming to your house right now. Just come and take me to Tooting. I don't know what's going on. I think something has happened to Steve. Please. I got off the phone. I called my mom. Mommy, please, I'm coming home with Bolaji. Can you come with us? We're going to Tooting. So Bimbola called me, said, Mommy, they've been calling me to come to Tooting. I don't know what really happened. I said, is Steve not there? She said, this morning when I suppose it was then, not this morning. Steve, that we normally pray in the morning. He normally talk with the children before they go to school. That we didn't hear anything. I said, maybe Steve is not a man that's sick or what's really happened. He said they were just calling me up. I said, what's happened? I said, Mommy, I don't know, but her mind is heavy then. As she was telling me, her mind was heavy. So I got to my sister's, picked her up. Then we came home to pick up my mom. So they were coming and she said, Mommy, call Mommy in Tooting, or just call Tooting number. So I called. Immediately I called. The person said, who is speaking? Who is on the other line? That is. I said, Bimbola's mom. He just dropped the phone. I said, eh? So I called Bimbola again. I said, they just dropped the phone. No. What's happened? What's really happened? He said, Mommy, I don't know. And then we go back in the car. So my sister was driving. I'm in the front seat. My mom in the back seat. And I'm praying. Then I'm calling. So I called a couple of my friends. Please pray. Please pray for Steve. I don't know what's going on. He's not responding. Please pray for him. I got two of my friends pray. And then as we carried on the journey, the phone kept ringing. And every time the phone rang, they still weren't telling me anything other than, where are you? Where are you? How far are you? And on a good day, Dartford to Tooting is probably about 45, 50 minutes. That day it felt like 10 hours because we just couldn't get there fast enough. Traffic everywhere. And the calls kept coming every few minutes. Where are you? And then I think at some point, the call came through again, and this time he said, where are you? They're only giving us 30 minutes. When I heard they're only giving us 30 minutes, I knew that Steve was dead. And they were only, the day were the undertakers, and they had been waiting, and now they can't wait anymore. And they only are giving us 30 minutes to probably take his body away. So we kept praying, pray a bit, cry a bit. So as soon as we got there, like I don't even know if I let my sister press the brake. As soon as I just said stop. As soon as we got to Linwood Road, I just said stop, let me just get out. So I flew out of the car. We got there, we saw Mommy outside. Immediately we saw Mommy outside, we said, Lord. And as I came out of the car, there were people in front of that. It was like a scene from a Nigerian movie. Steve's mom saw me and she started, Bimbo, Osagie, this. All of the well-wishers, they just had a look on their faces. Oh, Jesus. And then so they said we should go in, and then we went in. We saw him. They lie him on the floor. Then I had my phone. I wanted to, because I really believe that if I put tongue of fire, he would jump up. That's my belief. Those people that came from the hospital and the policemen, they said, no, we are going now. I just lay my hands on Steve, and then my sister and my mom behind me. And we just started wailing. And the undertakers were like, we have to go now. We have to go now. And my sister was like, please let her have some time. She only just got here. And they said, we have to go. He's been here for hours. So we begged. So I said to them, please, just give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute. She said, okay. So my sister left, my mom left. And it was just me and Steve. I looked at him. It looked like he was sleeping. I poked his mouth, just tried to, nothing was moving, but it just looked like he was sleeping. So I thought maybe if I pray for him. So I put my hand on his forehead to pray. And as soon as my hand touched his forehead, it was cold. It was as cold as something that had been in a freezer. And I've never had any experience of death. I don't even know, I don't even understand what happens to the body when the spirit leaves. But as I touched his forehead and I felt that cold, and it's not possible for any human being to be this cold. So I just knew that indeed he was gone.
I was sleeping because of the time difference. Before I called my dad, I called him the day before, asked him what's the deal. He told me I'm staying over at Dad's because he had a meeting. So he said he was going to pick Dad up, because I called him to see if he had picked Dad up, because he was supposed to pick Dad up that night, but my dad, they kept him for one more day. And so I called him up to see where my dad was, and he said, you know, he's fine, he's picking up the next day. So I called my dad at probably 3 a.m. EST, Atlanta time, and spoke to my dad. He said they didn't release him because he was being stubborn. That's my dad. But and said, but Steve was coming to pick him up the next day. So since I already knew that information, I decided not to call Steve. Usually I would have just called Steve and find out more details, but my dad already gave me the information. Almost 2 hours later, they called me up and told me, Steve is not breathing. Steve is not breathing. Okay, do we need to go to the hospital? Do we need to go to the, is the police holding him up? What's the deal? It didn't register. It didn't occur to me that Steve is not breathing meant more than that, just another day. And I think I almost passed out. I'm not a person that faints. I'm a very composed person for the most part of my life, but that is the one time I think I lost it, and my wife was scared. On the 6th, I was sleeping, then a friend of ours called me, Kemi, and she said, have you heard what happened? Have you heard what happened? I said, what do you mean what happened? She said, with Steve, have you heard what happened with Steve? Automatically, I was like, oh no, Dad has passed away, or Mom has passed away. She was like, no, Steve has passed away.
My sister in America called me, Tony's wife. She called me, she said, I was at work at my desk and the phone rang, and when I see the phone at that time in the morning, either something's wrong or she's mistakenly calling. So I said to her, was this a mistake or do you want to call me? She said, no, I meant to call you. I called her back. I said, what's up? And she said, something's happened. I said, what? She said, Osagie's passed. I said, which Osagie? I was irritated because, number one, I didn't want to hear anybody died. But she said, Osagie Steve. As soon as I had my regional in the office with me, I pushed my chair back, I screamed, I said, what do you mean he's passed? She said he just went to bed and didn't wake up, and it was just meltdown. Then I gathered my thoughts and I said, who knows? She said, trying to get a hold of Bimbola. And I was texting Bimbola that morning. So as I was texting her, I knew he'd passed. She hadn't. So then everything just spun out. That was what happened.
I'm like, shut up, man. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? I spoke to Steve yesterday. You know what? Get off my line. I dropped the phone and I picked up the phone and I called Steve's phone. Ringing, not picking up. That's not Steve. Even if Steve is busy, Steve will pick up his phone and go, yo, Skills, I'm busy right now, I'll call you back. He won't call me back, but at least he will tell me he will call me back. But he didn't pick up his phone. So I was getting worried, of course, because of the news I got. So I called Bimbo. And as soon as I called Bimbo, Bimbo picked up the phone and she was just wailing. And I don't know, I just ran cold. And I was just confused. I didn't know what to do.
I think it was 7. I just dropped my wife to the station and I was just about to bathe my son. And Shadow called my phone and I knew he was in Ghana, and he called my phone several times. I thought, for Shadow to call me, something's happening, something's up. But I thought, right, you know what, I'm gonna put my headphones in so I can bathe my son at the same time. And Shadow just said, boy, have you heard about Steve? And I said, heard what? And he didn't say, he said, have you heard about Steve? And as he was talking to me, the phone cut. And I just saw a message from Ayo to say, this guy, Steve, didn't wake up. So I said, what do you mean? So I called him. And immediately, this was about 7, everything just went black out to me. It was a shock. I just, literally, he texted me the day before at about 5 o'clock in the morning to say, hey, this guy, how are you? I'm like, what's he doing up at 5 in the morning? This is somebody you can never get on the phone that much. And so I replied to him, I said, I'm good, how are you? He said, yeah, I'm good. And that was the last time. And I was thinking, I saw a post on his Instagram, and I was going to call him and say, that's good. I was going to talk to him. And the next thing, I got the message, and yeah, I don't even know what happened during that. I can't remember anything else. It was just, everything just went blank.
On the 6th of October, so we have mutual friends. So one of our friends, in fact, on that day, my niece was getting married on that day. So I was running around trying to get things sorted. And I was chatting with a friend of mine that was meant to be there. Even Bimbo was meant to be at the wedding. I actually brought Bimbo's clothes from Nigeria. It was sewn all up. And she was meant to be there as well. And so we're communicating, oh, what time are you getting to the venue? When are you coming? And all of that. So it was him that was actually, in fact, he went to have his haircut for the engagement. And then that's when he was told, oh, can you check up? Can you go to Tooting and see what's happening? Because it seems like something is not right. Steve is not responding and something like that. So I was on the phone with him when he was heading there. So I said, just let me know what's happening. So in my head, I just thought it was just one of those things, maybe, you know, because you would never think anything like this would happen just like that. But unfortunately, he called me back and he said, bro, Steve is gone. I'm like, what do you mean Steve is gone? Where? Like, where did he go? Like, did he go to the shops? Where? What do you mean he's gone? It's like, no, Steve is gone. I remember I was just getting ready. I was in the bedroom and I just burst out crying. And my wife is she gets very emotional, and I try to move away from things that make her emotional very quickly, but I couldn't control myself on that day, and I didn't need to. I cried in front of her, and she's like, and I couldn't speak. I was just crying, and she was crying like, what is happening? Why are you crying? Tell me. But I couldn't speak. The first word I just uttered out was Steve, and she was hysterical as well. She didn't even understand at first, but yeah, that's how I heard. Shocking.
I was in shock. So I called a close friend of ours, Olaiton.
I was in Lekki and I was hungry and I was feeling sleepy. And a friend of mine said, okay, there's always queue at Foodies. Let me take you to another place. You will like the food too. I know you like Foodies. Then we packed the food. We went to my friend's place. Then I saw JJC's call. I look at it. I say, JJC is calling me. Okay, oh, our trip. I just speak. He said, it has happened. No.
I didn't even know how to speak. I literally called a light on her. I was like, it's happened. Oh my goodness, it's happened. It's happened. Everything has gone. Everything has gone crazy. It felt to me like the whole world has ended.
It has happened. No. It has happened. I say, in my mind, I was thinking it's the dad. Because at the same time, I live with them in London. I also live with them in Lagos. Yeah, I rented a small place in Lagos, so which they own the house. So in my mind is maybe Steve dad. He now says Steve. I say, what happened to Steve? The next thing, the phone fell up in my hand. Then everybody drew attention to me. The next thing, I was sweating. Then later, I just recited Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, Lam yalid walam yulad walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Then I sat down, then I was sweating. Then everybody was saying, what happened? I said, someone just died. Then after like few seconds, I was able to get myself back. Then I called. I said, sorry, you called me? And I said, yes. What did you call me for? I said, are you joking? He said, it has happened. No, it has happened. I said, what happened? How come?
You know, funny enough, I spoke to Steve on Monday, 2 days before he died. He left me a message. He said, oh, hi Caroline, give me a call when you get this message. And I had about 5 minutes in between that, you know, when I saw his message and the next meeting I had for work. And thank God I actually called him back and we spoke. So that was Monday. So you can imagine my shock on Thursday when I got a phone call from a friend of mine saying that, she goes, Caroline, have you heard about Steve? And when people always say that, you know, have you heard about this person? We know what it means. So already I had panic and I said, no, absolutely not. And she goes, how do we find out? I said, I'll call you back. And I called his phone and it rang and rang. And Steve is not the kind of person, he'd either answer the phone or he'd cut you off. Or he send you a message, I'm sorry, I'll call you later. Even if he doesn't call, but this just rang out. It rang out twice. It's never happened before. So of course I had that rising panic. So I called Bims and she didn't answer. And I don't think I've ever called her as well and she hasn't answered. And whilst I was still looking at my phone, trying to decide what to do next, and I got a phone call from JJC, and that's when I knew. So yeah, it was a tough one, you know.
You know, because in a roundabout way, Steve was the only friend I've really ever had. I've been very cagey, or I've been a very cagey person, and Steve is the only person that's been able to penetrate my defense, because he has always been the same from when I knew him almost 20-something years ago to date. He has never changed his spots. He's honest, he's reliable, and dependable. And yeah, that day was the day I lost him. And
when I first heard it was that evening, and I was like, what's going on? How is this true? I couldn't believe it, you know, because he spoke to my wife a few days before then to say, oh, it's been a while. I would like to bring the kids over to your house, you know, to bring them over here to come and play, you know. That was the plan. The following weekend, he was supposed to come to us with the kids just to have fun, and it was a big surprise and a big shock.
I heard through Sugar, who is a mutual close friend of, you know, Steve's family, Steve and I, and she rang me and was just screaming down the phone. I'm like, what's happened? She's like, it's Steve. And I remember I was cooking, I was trying to make stew. I was literally washing meat. And she's, it's Steve. Okay. Immediately I'm like, what hospital? Where are we going? Let me pick you up, because we're all local to each other. And she gave me the news. I couldn't believe it.
Cynthia MVP called me. I remember I was at home with the family just sitting down. And then she just called me and said to me, Steve, you know Steve? I said, yes, what happened to Steve? And she told me Steve is gone. And I was like, I was shocked. You know, one of those things that you just don't believe, because, you know, and then the circumstances to it as well, it just took me aback.
I actually do a radio show on Tribe Urban Radio. So Cynthia is like my little sister. She was frantically calling me, and I said, normally Cynthia will call me once and she knows I'll call her back, but she was calling, so I picked up the phone and all she said was Steve. And at that moment, I just felt cold and I knew that was it, literally. I think everybody around my street actually felt it, because I screamed, because I was like, I just spoke to him yesterday, so that was my goodbye. And Steve will always say to me, Kemi, I know you're busy, you never pick up your phone when I call you, and you usually return. But for some reason, the day before I picked up the phone, and for me, it was like a sign, he was giving me a sign, but I couldn't place it at all.
So I was actually working. So I'm a director of events. I have my own events and project management consultancy, and I was working. I was actually that day producing an event in East London, which is a music event, and I was by side of stage, trying to manage stage, and I get a phone call from Uncle Ade, the person who introduced us way back when. And I was like, I messaged back and said, like, kind of, you know how you decline the call and then you send a message, said, I can't speak right now, I'm in the middle of work. I'll call you back as soon as possible, kiss. Then I get a WhatsApp from him a few minutes later, and it was saying, we need to speak. Steve has gone. And I said, Steve has gone where? I said, what do you mean Steve has gone? He said, Steve has gone. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying to me, and that was it. And so I obviously, like, there's a live music event going, I took myself to the bathroom, made a call, and made a call to kind of find out what was going on, and then just broke down in tears in the bathroom, and had to pull myself together, because thank God it was nearly the end of the event, because I still had to finish it, and then wrap that up, and then walking home just streams of tears.
When I came back from Nigeria, I came back on the Monday morning, and on the Thursday evening, I got a group call. I got invited into a group call, and so I haven't been in any. I just haven't been ready to answer. So I answered the calls like, "What's happening, gentlemen?" Like that, like I was really ready to go, and I just saw these serious faces saying, "Ade, Steve is gone," and it blew my mind. So that was how I heard, and it's taken me some time to recover from that.
I could say probably the same week he came back from Atlanta when he was at his parents, because I always check his WhatsApp stuff, because we're like that basically. I always, say, what's up, what's the next move? And oh yeah, it's Atlanta, we just got back, or I saw this guy, saw that person, stuff like that. So for me it was a shock when Big Ayo left a message on the group. It was like a group saying, I've just spoken to Ayo. And I was thinking, why is he saying that? Why is Ayo saying you just spoke to Ayo on the group? So I was a bit shocked, like, is he going mad? And then I wrote on the thing saying, why are you seeing yourself? And he was like, oh yeah, I'll call you back. And then he called me later on saying, oh, it looked like Stevie J is gone. Stevie J. I said, what's Stevie J? Stevie J, I just, spoke to. He said, yeah. So it was more like a shock.
I had just put out a weekly post. And normally once I put out a post, because we have a huge database, once I put out a post, we start to get some kind of replies from everybody. And then a gentleman, another industry figure called Ko, Mr. Ko Ernst, just sent me a photograph, and Steve's photograph, and wrote under, "Is it true he has passed?" And then I tried to call him, I couldn't call him. But just about the same time, AB Fresh, another industry guy, AB Fresh now, sent a message. So I called him, and he said, oh yeah, that it's true.
I was working at home, and then Rosie, we used to work together in Big Boys. Then Rosie called me and said, are you sitting where you are? I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting down. Like, okay, I got something to tell you, so calm down. Mr. Steve has left us. I'm like, where did he go? He said, no, Steve is dead. I'm like, what Steve? He said, Steve Osagie. I didn't even believe what she said. Hours later, I still didn't believe. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I carried on working. Then I texted my friend Tipsy.
So I was just at home, and AB Fresh texted me and he said, Steve is dead. I was like, what? What Steve? And then next thing, my friend Uzi texted me as well. She went, Mr. Steve is dead. Like, I just sat down for like 5 minutes. Like, I was trying to I was just like, nah, can't be Steve. I went on his Instagram. I saw he still posted like a day before that. And I thought, obviously it can't be Steve. Like, it's probably someone else. And then I walked around the house for like the next 10 minutes. I came back and I was like, what? Steve is gone. How? Like, I couldn't help myself. It was like the worst thing you would hope was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. Like, it was just that kind of like stupid joke of like April Fool's, like, oh, he's gonna wake up now. But
And then she texted me back saying, yeah, she just confirmed it as well. It didn't even eat me then that was true until I was about to sleep at night. And then I started thinking about Mr. Steve properly, and that, I had to call my mother that night. I haven't called my mom in a long time. I had to call my dad. I called her that night, crying like a child.
And the 6th of October for me, it was also a day to remember because it was the day my dad also passed away a few years ago. So I was still processing the day, and I had a wedding engagement to go that evening. So I said I was going to the barber's. A lot of people will laugh, you don't have hair, you're going to the barber's. But I was going to trim my beard because I'm proud of my beard, you see. Then my wife called me and said to me, you have to go to Steve's parents' house. I'm like, why? And they go, oh, we got a call that he's not being responsive. I'm like, you lot are just going to take an hour of my time, and I'm going to get there, he's going to be sleeping, I'm going to have to kick the idiot to wake up, and then I'm going to have to tell him, you owe me an hour. But that was not the case. I got there and I got the shock of my life. I became an absolute wreck. I was shaking. I couldn't control myself. I ran back to my car and I ran back to the house. I ran back to my car. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Things started things started coming together like a jigsaw puzzle. Then it made sense that I saw a police car. It made sense that I saw the coroner's van, which I never noticed when I approached the building. And then I was asked if I wanted to go in to say my last respect. I'm not the type that I use profanity, but I must have said a million profanity words that day because I didn't know what to say. But I didn't go inside because I didn't want to remember him that way. I think the painful thing for me also was that his wife was not getting the information she needed. And then she thought, oh, Ayo is in there. Ayo is there already. Let me call him. Unfortunately, I wasn't brave enough to pick up a call. I was not. I couldn't. I don't think if it had rang for 12 days, I would have picked it up because I couldn't bring myself to tell her that. But she put me at peace. When we went away, we had a one-on-one. She asked me the question, why didn't you pick up the call? I told her I couldn't because I was a mess. That's how I felt.
So I was home and my children's father called me and said, have you heard about Steve? And I was like, yeah, he's just gotten back from America. I'm supposed to talk to him in a few days because I was traveling to Nigeria, and he usually helps me organize my trips when I go, set up interviews and all sorts. And there was one thing he wanted to talk to me about publishing. So he had been calling, even when he was traveling. And he kept on saying, call me back. And I kept on procrastinating, saying, I was sending him another voice and saying, oh, bro, I'm going through this thing. Work is stressing me out. I'll call you tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. I just kept on saying tomorrow. So when I got that call, he just said to me, that's my children's dad, and said, he's dead. I'm like, no. I said, what kind of stupid call is this? And I just hung up on him. So that was how I found out. I was just at home and I got the worst call of my life. And I was just hoping maybe it was a bad dream and I didn't hear it.
I actually remember saying, Steve, you know what, we need to take a picture. And we took that picture and I'm so glad we took it. And that's the last time I took a picture with Steve. It's really sad that he's gone, but his legacy will continue to live forever.
Things have never been the same since. You know, we put together a memorial for Steve in Nigeria, and people came and spoke really nicely about him.
Whenever he's around, he's always telling me, Dami, I'm in town. I'll go like, okay, I'll come and see you.
I'm busy. So when I saw the news, I was actually down because I wanted to call him on Sunday, and I'm like, no, I need to see him when he's in town, then we can discuss. He's going to help me out with some things, to push my channel, push this, push that for me. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to make money this year. I was like, I want private time with him. When I see him is what I want, but not knowing I will not even be seeing him. That's the most painful thing. I should have called and get the little advice I can get few days before his death. But God knows best. And I know he's resting because Mr. Steve has touched me in a way that I can't even explain.
And I think I just spoke to him like sometime early this year or so on Instagram. So me seeing this thing on last week, I saw the post on a blog, and I was like, Steve Spotlight, I was like, what's going on? Like this can't be. So I just went over to JJC's page to check, and then when I saw that JJC himself posted it on his page, I was like, okay, it's done. So I'm not like, what could have happened to Steve? That was the next question I was asking myself, like, what could have happened to Steve?
So I just took my phone and took a picture of him. Why I did that, I don't know, but I took a picture of him. I just wanted to be able to go back to this image. I took a couple of pictures, and they came, zipped up, and then I videoed them as they were moving it. And they had a van outside that had two other bodies. And Steve was just a body in a bag. And literally my whole world came crashing down.
I will love that they took him to wherever they want to take him to.
There was just no warning, just nothing. Just here today, gone tomorrow. It was really hard. And as I looked and looked, I just thought, what am I going to tell the kids? I think I just immediately felt so sorry for them. Like, what am I going to tell them? What am I going to tell them?
My name is Benjamin Arrow. Sazer Steve Osagie is my cousin. He had called me the day before, actually, but I was working and I couldn't answer. So I said, okay, I'll call him the next day. And that morning, I got a call from one of his auntie, and she was just screaming. I'm like, what is going on? Say something. All she said was, Sazer. Well, okay, what's going on? I called the house. I spoke to Bimbo, and she broke the news to me. And I thought it was a joke. Because she, it just didn't make sense. It still don't make sense.
It's still a shock, to be fair. It's still a big shock. But as they say, time is a healer. We'll all heal, but the main thing is not to forget him. The legacy continues. Steve will always be remembered, man. He'll always be remembered. And one thing I want to say is that I never saw the benefits of the voice notes he leaves, but I'm seeing the benefit of it now, because if I feel like I want to hear his voice again, I can just listen to the voice notes, or all the nuggets that he keeps on leaving on his page on Instagram. Just go there and have a little bit of refreshment. Just refresh yourself with him. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep on doing that. Yeah, but hearing about his death was big, man. It was a big shock.
I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss his calls, his text messages. I mean, even when I used to change money from Naira to pound to Naira, it's Steve I do it through. He's played several different roles in my life, and it's weird trying to now figure out how to fill in those various voids that he's left right now in order to move forward and continue here and try and get on with my life. But the testimony of Steve is going to be what those many people he's touched, how we champion his legacy, how we continue his work. But above all, his biggest work and mission has been his wife and his children.
I'm still in shock till now because I didn't even think of losing another close brother like that to me. I haven't just lost Sans Sultan, who was my best friend in industry, like in and out. So, you know, that happening last year, and then I'm still yet to give it about that, and then now losing Steve again this year, just brings a lot of question to the mind, and you just wonder what's going on. But like everyone has said, in these things, we can't question God. All we can do is thank Him for the good life well spent that He spent while He was here on earth, and then reflect on our lives too, and then see how much we can also do, you know, in giving a lot of ourselves to people around us, and then how much lives we can touch positively, so that when we leave too, you know, people have a lot of good stuff to say about us. I think that's basically what matters the most for every human being.
You know, Steve, he will call after a while, knowing from, he will just call out of the blue and say, "Yo, DK, I'm in your area," and he will just pop in, you know, pop in, chill, eat, and everything, and then off again. He always has people in his mind, you know, and that's one thing about him that I really appreciate and respect. He doesn't forget friends, he doesn't forget people, always has people in his mind. And he's going to be missed. He's going to be really missed.
For me, it's when I went to England for his funeral. When I arrived to England, it hit me. Steve was supposed to pick me up, or Steve has always picked me up at the airport. I took the cab and I headed over to my house in Dartford. And then it hit me when I got home that I moved to Dartford because of Steve. I grew up in Brixton, which is like another hour and a half away. But I moved to Dartford so that I can be close to Steve. He even helped me find the place. And now I'm in that house and Steve is no longer there. And I felt so alone because I would just normally expect him every 5 minutes. He would drop the children at school, then pop over to my house. We'll have a little chat, then he'll go over, spend some time with his wife, then come over to my house and we'll spend a little time. And that's normally that's my trips to London, but now he's not there. The funeral was very emotional, but at the same time was heartwarming to hear so many people talking so lovely about him. Something that I know, but as I said, it was the first time I'm hearing that he was the same with every single person that he met. And every single person that he met, 20, 30 years, say the same thing about Steve. And for me, that was the moment I realized, yes, he was an angel, someone special. And, you know, as they say, the good die young. And most importantly, angels belong in heaven, not on earth. So he has done his duty. And as an angel, he has to go back to paradise. We're here at the interment location. And yeah, we talked to some of his friends to find out what kind of person Steve was. For me, amazing person, a good friend, a brother, my manager, and a lot more. So let's hear what everybody else has to say. Most importantly, Steve was a very good father and wonderful husband. So let's hear what everybody else has to say.
Steve was a light, and there's no surprise that he used the company Spotlight, and he will forever be missed, and his presence is just going to be for what it is. And I love him to death, and nothing will change. He will still be around, and for me, he's still here. It's not gone, and yeah, the industry would feel his impact years to come, and I'm grateful for that, really.
He was one of my greatest champions, right? He used to champion me on a lot.
Steve is energy. Energy is the purest form of anything you can have. He's just energetic. He's never tired. I call him my man, the man of reason for me, because no matter what I'm going through, he never had anything negative. I've never seen him angry, I've never seen him upset. It was just positive.
No matter what I was going through, I could only speak to Steve for about 10 years. Steve was the only person I'll speak to, because he would always find a way to let me see what I'm supposed to see, especially through religion.
Steve is one of the most selfless people I know. Like I always say, we live in a very, our industry is a very harsh one. You don't have too many friends in our industry. And people, some will not think twice to, stab you in the back or do whatever. So Steve was an exception to that rule.
He rarely would ask you to do anything for him. He would do everything for you.
So many words to describe him. Resourceful is number one, because even if you're in a jungle, he can find someone, at least someone that knows someone that knows someone that can get you what you need.
Bishop Osato Deremola Osagie.
Megan Akira Eliana Osagie. Ruby Tuesday Osagie. Benjamin Osagie.
Just like his kindness and warmly, and like just how warm he was and friendly, and like even if it's in a different country in a different language, he'll still smile, he'll still be kind, and he'll never stop an opportunity to just be nice to someone. That's probably one of the things I miss most about him.
He was an amazing person, and that is what we continually hear about. Steve was working on 1,001 things with 1,001 people that were amazing, but what we're hearing is the character of an amazing God-fearing man. And so for me, it's reminded me that when things like this happen, I will mourn, but I have to remember what I can learn from that person's life. And optimism is definitely one of those things I'm going to take. I'm the person in the WhatsApp groups like, with my project management head, if you calculate it like this, what do you think? And Steve will be like, forget that, let's just do it. Are we doing this, Steve? And it's always a yes, we're doing it. So I'm gonna miss him so much. I'm gonna miss my brother so much. But like I said, because of the distinctive character, there's no other Steve. Every word is going to be that he would have said to me is going to be in my head.
Just his energy, like in the mornings, everybody will all be tired and groaning and upset, and they'll just be there smiling. Why are you upset? Why are you upset? Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. Probably just his energy and his vibe in the house.
I'm really proud of him. I'm really inspired by his life, even though I complained. I complained about all the noise. I complained I was always on the phone. I see what he was doing on the phone.
I like that Daddy's been kind to everyone and taking care of us.
He sold into people. He was never tired of helping people. And that is a huge legacy. So one thing I've learned is, you know what, it doesn't matter who the person is. Anybody that needs your help or advice, help out if you are able to, in whichever way you can. And that was one thing I've learned and one thing I would take forward.
So he touched so many people's hearts and he made them feel happy when they feel like sad.
But seeing every single thing I saw or heard since he passed, I realized that he wasn't just playing, he wasn't just whiling away time, he wasn't bored, hence why he was on any of those things. It was genuinely and deliberately touching people's lives. And that made me so proud of him. Like, I'm so proud of him.
The best thing about my dad was probably how he was really selfless, because I remember when we went to America, and this is just one scenario, he was always the one to sleep on the couch, or he would always leave the bed for us. And that's just one of the times that I can remember that he's been really selfless.
He's that person that no matter whether you speak to him every day or you speak to him sporadically, he's the same person. He's always ready to support you. He's always ready to advise you, whether it's professionally, personally, with regards to your children, your marriage. I mean,
it was actually the WhatsApp group that kind of made me think, wow, he's not a normal human being. And I remember saying to Bimbola, this was, because at some point I was showing her the messages on the group just so she could see and can help her during the healing process. And I looked at her and I was like, I don't even think you knew who Steve was, you know? And we both looked at each other, and I remember saying to us all those times that we complained about him staying on the phone and all of that. This is literally it. And so I think, you know, Bimbola and I sat down on this sofa, it was probably around 9:30, 10. We're just talking about how much of a good person he is. And it wasn't a case where people felt they needed to talk about how good he was. It was just because he was a good person, someone who's good and is gone so soon. Yeah, I mean, I think if words could really bring someone back, Steve should have been back by now, for sure.
My biggest joy is giving him the freedom to do all the things that he did. So yes, I would complain, but my complaints were not enough to, I wasn't complaining that, oh, yo, don't do this thing. I was just saying, hey, I need more time here. So one of my biggest joys, I never hindered him from his God-given task.
When I was sick in the hospital, like, I thought that was it for me. He was there when I bought my house. So happy, sad, anytime, he's always there.
What I'm hearing about Steve and what I know makes me want to be a better person right now. It makes me want to change who I am and help people with the little I have.
Allah should just keep him safe because he's a good guy. You know, the testimony on that day is not new to me because I know who he is. You know, we fight our battle a lot. In fact, one of the persons that we always fight is me and him. Few people can relate. And he will say, there's nothing you can do. I know I will change.
Really, I call him Mr. Duracell. Like literally, like, don't you get tired? And that's something I always say. Steve is he's a selfless person. I think for me, what I really, really see, I see him through Bimbola's eyes. And as women, we tend to talk a lot. We talk and we share so much. But seeing Steve through Bimbola's eyes, he's someone who is he loves his wife, he loves his family, he's very energetic. He's actually Bimbola's #1 like hype guy.
And I'm so happy that in our home, we both gave each other the opportunity to shine. He was my biggest cheerleader. I was his biggest cheerleader. And so that made me really, really proud. And it made me happy. So even when I'm sad, I'm also happy.
He's a good guy. In fact, the word good guy is understatement. He's an angel. Yeah, I think that's the best word to describe him. You know, angel can do anything for you. They are ready to listen to you and they are ready to solve your problem. That's the best way I can describe him.
All my life's moments, Steve was ever present. My wedding, my father's passing, even my father-in-law's passing. Steve had a way of showing up and showing out. You know, it's magnificent. I don't know. You know, like I said earlier, I don't like putting him in past tense, like was, or, you know, I just want him to be ever present in my heart. You know, that's the only way I feel I can really accept everything that is happening.
With Steve, nothing is off limits. You just feel so at ease with him. You just naturally just open up to him. He has a way of making you feel so comfortable, relaxed.
My name is Mo Easy. I'm a singer, artist, rapper. I've known Steve for a very long time, even before the music got serious in UK. I mean, we would always joke about play basketball.
Steve and Mo Easy, we're about the ball, trying to put in that work. And the election is tomorrow. We're here playing basketball, right? But it is what it is. Deuces.
Steve is one person that I would say, no matter what you're going through, he'll bring a smile to your face. Even if, you know, you go to him complaining about something, he will find something good to pull out of it. One, to cheer you up, and two, to push you. His thing was always push. His thing was always everybody can win, should they dare to work. Consistency. And one amazing thing about him was always connecting you to a dot or connecting you to someone. So should you want to do one thing, he'll be like, oh, I know something, guy, this guy does this, and he's quick to connect you with that person. And
what is actually feeding me today, he was among the people that said, Dami, this thing, you will be seeing money from it and you will make it. And I'm like, okay, I will make it. Since you said I will make it, let me just push forward and see if I can get there. But I'm always having it at the back of my mind that Mr. Steve is always like, nobody can tell you less, you can do it. Today, and I know one thing, I'm going to stick to that word. Always smile whenever you're down, because anytime I'm down and my face is always hard, you go like, damn me, what's wrong with you? Smile, this and that. From today, I will always hold on to all the things you used to tell me just to remember you, because you are very dear to my heart.
Mr. Steve was that person that was there, like he was there for everybody. With the artists we work with, he was there for them. Like, there are some things that Mr. Steve will do out from his own pocket for an artist, you know. That's the kind of person Mr. Steve, you know, is. And
like, it doesn't make any sense, but I know that God knows all, and the Bible says He will increase our greatness and comfort us on all sides. And I just pray that prayer every day for his family, that every greatness that this man has done on this earth would make sense. And on top of that, may the good Lord comfort every one of us, and especially his family on all sides.
You know, he was always there for me. He was always there for me. You know, he was someone I could always rely on. If I call on him, and I never always call.
My name is Malvina, but a lot of people know me as Vina Black Barbie. It's really sad for me because the day after my birthday in September, Steve actually sent me a message, and he was so excited, and he was like, you know what, we need to do something. We have to work. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And the plan was to meet. But a month later, Steve was gone and we never met. So it is sad, but I do believe Steve has actually done what he was supposed to do. And that is connect people to who they need to be connected to. And everybody that has been here for Steve today, they've been connected in one way or another. So it's sad, but you can't question God.
And what his death has taught me is to reach out to my friends as much as I can and talk to them, and just find time to talk to them and really see how they are doing, because I never really spoke to him as much as I should. And the only thoughts I keep to myself now is that Steve was an amazing person to everybody he met.
I've learned so many lessons from Steve's life. I've learned to be selfless. I've learned to be giving. I've learned not to procrastinate. That the next minute or two is not promised. So whatever we have to do it now. Steve always had a sense of urgency to things. He was always in a haste, always in a rush, and he would say it meaningfully. The things that he said will sink in. However, he made it like he was on an assignment. Now it all makes sense. We've learned so many things from Steve. The selfless part of it is the biggest part. Steve was selfless. He did so many things for me for free. He mentored me for free. He would check up, he would follow up.
I was speaking to someone and she was telling me how one of our relatives, that she was just going through the last message she had with Steve. Steve was preparing a logo for her. So we knew that she was trying to start her business. She'd spoken to me a lot about getting a business off the ground and so on and so forth. And the one time that Steve got to really get to know about what she was doing, Steve was like, where's your logo? Where's your website? Where's your Instagram handle? Where's your social media page? How do people know that you're here? Immediately he got to work, unpaid. All these things is not that somebody has said, here, take the money. He immediately got to work, created a logo, and she was ready to move. And she was just telling me today, and I remembered that, and my heart sank for her, because she's lost somebody that was willing to help her for free.
when I saw the crowd, I know that definitely this man is, maybe that's why God gave us peace. That don't worry, I will surprise all of you. And God really surprised everyone. Everyone. God really surprised everyone. Because nobody knows that Steve is we know that Chris is a man of the people, but not to that extent that even the pastor said, this man you brought to this church is not old, no, it's young man. And he pulled crowd like this.
The biggest lesson I would say is this Bible verse that says a good name is better than riches. A good reputation is better than riches. I woke up one day and that scripture came to my mind, and I know that God was just telling me. For me, it summed up Steve's life. And it was like God saying to me, this is how I need you to be. Anyone that knows me, I'm the money girl. I'm always looking for money, always trying to make money. Legitimately, obviously, but and I'm still going to keep doing that. That's not going to change. But I think God was just showing me that a good reputation outweighs and beats money, riches, any day, any time. Steve had a brilliant reputation. He had such a good name, and we're going to carry on that legacy. I'm going to carry on that legacy for him. Yeah, I don't know how the future is going to pan out, but I have missed not just my husband, but my friend. Like, we have so much fun together.
Osagie has never one day complained about the wife. Say, mommy, see woman. You know, as a mother, you always come to your corner and say, this woman, never. And you dare not, complain about the way. You can say, mommy, just leave that way, leave it.
But for all my children, the three of them, Tony, Courage, and Steve took to my father. I must tell you, more than others. He loved his children with passion, not liking or loving ordinarily, distinctively. And I can tell you, sincerely speaking, Steve lived and died for his children. My father was very, very passionate about us. Steve was more passionate with his children than anybody I know.
And the thing I really like about Daddy is that every time I needed him, he just came straight away. He didn't do anything else before. He just came straight away.
He was a very caring father, a wonderful father. Always there to make sure the children, get to where he wants them to be.
I realized how many lives he touched and how many people he actually got to know during his life, and that made me feel a bit better.
I'm praying that I don't get to a place where I'm totally not interested in the things that I used to do. I'm really praying that I don't get to that place. I'm just praying that I find the ginger within myself, because he was really, really my ginger. I miss him so much.
Not only we alone, his brother. Then I say, you see, Courage has no phone, Tony has no phone. He say, Mommy, you don't know they are busy. Leave my brothers alone, they are busy. I say, you always like to make up for people. He say, Mommy, when you were working in custom, don't you know how busy we are? I say, okay. So he just, one thing I saw in him, he loves people. He don't want you to condemn anybody. Like, he doesn't. He will not take it. He will argue to the last. So I say, why are you chatting? Why are you arguing? Not even JJC. Don't even go to JJC matter at all. Say, mommy, don't go there at all. Just thank God.
Most of the things I didn't even know, so it really surprised me. And also, it just made me feel amazed and just yeah, I'm proud of just all the things that he accomplished and done in his life.
His love was for his family. Love was extraordinary, was for his family.
I miss you and hope having a good time in heaven. Can't wait to see you in a bit.
He was an extraordinary child. He was an extraordinary child. Beloved by us, loved by his mother, loved by me.
All my life I've had to take care of my younger brother, while Steve has always had to be Steve, just being who he needed to be and who God had called him to be.
He has hundreds and thousands of friends, and he's always a good friend, but he was a great brother. And the only thing I could say is, wherever you are, know that your family is going to be taken care of. Bimbo will be taken care of. Bishop, Megan, Ruby, Benjamin, they'll all be taken care of, because I know for one thing, without even thinking about it, that if anything ever happened to me, you would take care of my family. So your family is going to be taken care of, so you don't have to worry about that. Love you, Osagie. I'm a very private person. My group is very small. You know, I have very close friends. I have a lot of friends, but very close friends. But you just open up the world, my life to the world, and for that I'm entirely grateful. I know you're in a better place. I've always tried to lead my brothers, but this time you went before me. I didn't want you to go, but you've gone before me, and I know you're going to be looking out for us all. For Tony, Courage, Bimbo, the kids, and all the other friends that you have, JJC, all of them, you know, you introduced us to the whole world, you know, through your life. And the reason I'm so proud of you is because there is no bad report, all good reports. You know, when I speak to my mom and my dad and they're crying, I said, are you not glad that all the reports about your son are good reports? You know, that what else could you ask for a child but to introduce the world to you or you to them, and only good reports come out of it. And for that, Steve, as a family, we're eternally grateful. Thank you.
And hopefully we as his friends, loved ones, we'll be able to sit down and figure out how we can come together and figure out some kind of support system for the wife and kids. I don't know how, but it's something we need to think about, because what he has given to everyone who pours out testimonies on Steve, if you were to box that up, tag it, and put a price on it, and just really see how much, if you were to put a price on that knowledge, support, love that Steve has shared, it would be huge. And so we just need to make sure that we give it back to the wife and kids, his mom and dad, his brothers, and the rest of the family.
What is funny about the whole thing, as a mother, I gave birth to Osagie. I saw him the day he came. I was the first to carry him. And the day he was dying, I was the last to carry him, touch him. And that was it.
It was gold and silver to us. The other two children, very fine, doing very well, because he was the only person in our lifeline in London, myself and the mother. No other person to show us the love that Steve showed us.
I think his life has taught me, us, many people, just to, whatever it is that you've been called to do, just do it. Just do it. Love God and love man. love God and love man.
True.
Made me feel like really just really reassured. He had lots of friends and lots of people who knew him and loved him, and just maybe like felt like an extended family. It was really comfortable.
He was kind, he was good. And I know people say, when people die, everybody say, yeah, this person was a kind person. We just say it in Nigeria just to talk. But sincerely, Steve was just a good person to everybody.
He's present, to just have the opportunity to converse with him, you feel like you're just the most important person in the whole world. And it's so amazing how he's so very present in every kind of conversation, relationship, friendship that he has. Because over the years, I've seen him, as an amazing husband, a fantastic father. He's very hands-on, he's very present in his family's life. And to flip that and also see how he's spread himself as well to both external family members, friends, and you wonder how was he able to juggle all of that in 24 hours in a day. Like, Steve is just always there.
I've heard so many stories from people that Steve did this and Steve did that. And I'm thinking, what was there 20 Steves? Because how do you have time to do all these things and also still have a wonderful marriage and a wonderful, be a wonderful dad, and you're taking your kids to football? And I heard so much about Ruby and Bishop and Megan, and he made time for people to get to know him, for people to get to know his family. He just was always talking about his family. And what I've learned from him was that there's time for everything. Come on, Ruby. There's always time for everything. Even though there's no time, there's still time to be a good person.
Steve was one guy that he could have 3 conversations at the same time. We were in a family meeting sitting down. Steve is on a call in one ear, headset in another ear, and he's running workshops and business meetings while you're sitting there interacting with him. So for us, it sounded like noise. It's like, Steve, what are you doing? Well, this family gig, why are you talking? Who are you talking to? So it was almost like Steve found a way to speed up relationships and conversations when the likes of us were static, traditional, classic people in the normal way. If you're sitting down, you're sitting there. If you're sleeping, you're sleeping. But Steve could run 3 things concurrently at speed. And as he began to travel and go and come back, he would say to me, this is what I've done, and it'll be very, very quick, and then he will be in the car, will be off.
We just need to learn to love people, follow up, check up on them, because we don't know what tomorrow would lead to or what tomorrow would mean. Steve was a support system, not just for me. I used to feel I was special, but then I heard so many stories about Steve and other people and the relationship he had built. I'm so honored to have been part of his life, and I really wish that he was still here.
I love you so much, boss. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with you. I learned so many things working with Mr. Steve.
Live a life that when you are no more, people can say good things about you. According to my own Quran, according to our own Quran, according to the saying and the deed of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, part of what they will use in the day of accountability, because we believe in life after death. What people say about you when you are no more is part of the reward that will meet you while you are in grave and the day of accountability. So let's try as much as possible to do good and to always be friendly. That's it.
I think I've cried all my cries, and I've come to terms that, you know what, he left us all learning a big lesson: to love, to connect, and to be there for people.
You can ask God questions, but you can't question him. We can ask him questions, but we can't question him because he's God all by himself. And I think, Steve's death has certainly taught me that. And even if I knew that a bit, I know that I feel like I have a stronger sense of that now.
For those people that don't know Steve, I'm hoping that this documentary will be an opportunity for you to get to know Steve, because he definitely was a spotlight and a person that we should all emulate. The legacy that he left behind is one of kindness and being there for people. And I've learned a lot from him, and I'm hoping that you too learn a lot from him. Steve, rest in peace. We love you, and you will never be forgotten. Your spotlight shines on forever. Africans, aou.